Hello, sumo fans. We are back.
November Basho is approaching.
The final one of the year. Very exciting as usual. I would say this is the new Stormy Basho. Then again, they all are. But November has a way of creating new stars.
There's definitely the room for it this time around.
It'll be needed. We're going to start at the top, which is officially not the top anymore, because Hakuho has retired, as you all know, and they did actually pull him off the Banzuke at the last minute, so he does not appear at the top. It is our good old friend Terunofuji. But since this is the last time we'll probably ever be talking about Hakuho on this show, we should say a few words. So I'll just start with the very first tournament that I saw. Hakuho was already doing that injured every other tournament thing, so I didn't even know who he was. And I watched Terunofuji take the whole thing. The very next tournament was the Takanoiwa scandal, and Terunofuji was out. And now I have to figure out who these other two Yokozuna, Hakuho and Kakuryu, are, because they were both out. And the first time I saw Hakuho, I couldn't decide if I liked him or hated him. Because on one hand, he was so dominant that it's amazing. And on the other hand, he had the strut, he was so cocky, and I wanted to go for the underdogs. But I'll put it this way. From the moment I first saw him wreck everybody, I just knew he was a once-in-a-lifetime, wrestler, competitor of any sport, and that it was just not the same if he wasn't in a tournament. And I grew to really root for him to be in tournaments, because it's like, prove that you can beat the greatest of all time. It's good for everybody. So he will be sadly missed from this channel, as I'm sure he's sadly missed from all over. But I would like to say farewell. Can't wait to see you back as a coach.
Hakuho's legacy is being fervently discussed in all corners of the world that care about sumo. I am not going to throw my hat in that particular ring, but what I will say is that he was somebody that I don't think we'll ever see again.
No.
It was a weird combination of peerless talent, that insatiable hunger that we like in some people and we know other people need, and that wheel of controversy. And it's fascinating because, sometimes it's all Hakuho, sometimes it's all the Sumo Association, sometimes the Yokozuna Deliberation Council is just picking a fight, and it became this weird, I'm not going to call it a WWE script, that's a little bit too far down.
But it's kind of there.
It's a weird spin, and whenever Hakuho was around, and this is towards your point, it's sort of, he changed the orbit of everything in the solar system.
Everything.
The sumo constellations got realigned by him. I am looking forward to a few years from now when his proteges come up. There's some of them that may reach the top division in 2022, and it's definitely going to be interesting because the only way that Hakuho is going to stop causing controversy is if he's not in sumo anymore.
And I will say, it's such a disappointment that I got into sumo so late, because he had such a crazy career up until the point that I started. So I just really wish I could have been in the moments when he was the young guy. I think we would have had a totally different feel by the end, because we would have seen all the other stuff that preceded the stuff that happened at the end.
Yeah, this is also what's kind of interesting about Hakuho, is that he's been here for so long. There are people that look at him from different perspectives. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the traditionalists, they know Hakuho from beginning to end, and they have the different focus. Some people are like the peerless techniques, the modern medicine approach, the way he's extended his career. Other people look at his litany of problem making.
Yeah, well, consider also, though, that Hoshoryu used to be the bad guy of sumo, and Hakuho was the good guy. We missed all of that. So that's another thing. Hakuho wasn't always the guy causing controversy. For a while, he was the guy upholding sumo's integrity, because Hoshoryu was so out of control in everybody's eyes. So, there was a flip of the script at some point, and we were at that end of the script.
It's going to be weird. In a way, I feel like we're more prepared for it than almost this time last year when we were starting this. And we sort of knew something like this would happen, but we weren't ready.
No, because he was like the phoenix. He always rose no matter how bad it looked. But as we've discussed with other guys who retire seemingly out of nowhere, and it's only because we don't have the insight to what's going on, when your body quits and your mind's like, I just don't have it in me. And that's what happened to him. We had no insight into it because he always had to have that aura. But like to all those around him, this was not a surprise. But to us, it was never going to not be a surprise. Mm-hmm. So it's sad, but unfortunately, this will be our last time discussing him unless something happens in the coaching world. Yeah,
it would be from the coaching world. We will no longer have an opinion on Hakuho Sho, the Yokozuna.
The final thing I want to say about this is the way sumo works, he goes now from the very top of his game to being the most respected guy to the very bottom of the coaching rung. It's like you always start over in Japanese culture. So he's going to be quiet for a while because he's got to like sort of pay his dues until he gets to be Hakaku, you know? So it's going to be a quiet couple of years at least, I would think.
A few years.
So next we will talk about actually attending wrestlers and one who knows how much time we have with him. Terunofuji, who is now the number one ranked Yokozuna and the only Yokozuna. He had quite the impressive tournament last time where he just showed you, this is the future. Until his knees go out, I'm going to dominate everybody. You better elevate your game because A, we need some more Yokozunas, and B, you're not going to get anything if you don't rise to my challenge. So he is the new top dog. He is the man to beat. I have no reason to think that will change for November. He's had incredible Novembers the last 2 years, so, you know, let's see what he's got.
Yeah, he's the one who brought the stability in the tumultuous times of yesteryear. And the stability's gonna stop the very instant his knees give out, but Terunofuji is going to be the guy to beat. And it's really going to be a matter of not whether or not he will be dominant, not whether or not he will be in Yusho race. It's going to be who's going to be the guy to take one off.
Right. There's somebody's going to figure him out at some point or catch him on an off day. It's coming. But it may not come for a long time.
Could be. I can see him chaining together wins for a year.
That would be so crazy if all of a sudden, like, he just gets himself on the map and it's like, oh, I ended my career with, like, 15 U-shows. He could do it.
I'm sort of getting that vibe. He is in a unique situation that he's got the dominance. He's gotten rid of his Yokozuna willies, pressures, and he knows that he's only got so much time, so it does feel like he's fighting every tournament like it could be his last. And with that kind of energy going into each fight, good luck.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody on this list currently that's shown anything consistent. Maybe somebody will knock a win off of him here or there. The only one in this list, I believe, is Takakeisho. I don't think anybody else has taken a U-show from him.
It's just him.
Yeah. And we'll get to him. So next, we get to Shodai, who's Ozeki 1 East. He barely scraped by with an 8-7. It was a better showing than his previous tournament. But Shodai is stuck in this perpetual, I'm not doing my best sumo kind of thing. I don't know if he's afraid. His style is such that he lets you come at him and he takes everything you got. So he has a lot of wins on the edge. And he hurt his ankle, which had to have gotten in his head that I can't do this because these guys are stronger now. I'm a bigger target. So now he's got to change his strategy. And I think that's why we get Shodai the dominant and then Shodai who's like falling out of the ring. Because I think he's afraid of getting injured. What do you think?
I think that's certainly the case. I think he's 30 this year.
Mm-hmm.
The 30 does seem to be sort of a mental switch for a lot of people. And Shodai, in this tournament, he's not going to have a better opportunity to show us his stuff, I think. Hakuho's gone, so all that weird upward pressure. Terunofuji's now like an established thing. He's going to be doing his thing. No Katoban, no extra weird pressure because Takakeisho's cleared Katoban. It's like this is baseline. He is now going to either continue to flounder, and again, as you mentioned, injuries can mess with your head. One little thing and then your whole thing's out of whack. Or this could be the new page.
Right. I mean, he's had enough time. The crazy thing is he's actually senior Ozeki now. Because Takakeisho did the Ozeki Wake thing, I don't know when that was, last year? And so technically it restarted the clock. So Shodai is the main guy. And honestly, he doesn't seem to show even as much as Goeido and Takayasu did when they were doing the up and down. So I hope it's because he's sort of playing a cat and mouse game. That he's actually better than we're seeing. But I don't know. He really is a big question mark.
He did get to Ozeki.
Right.
And it's in there. And personally for me, this is going to be the tournament that is my temperature check for Shodai. It was always something like, oh, he's got a clear Katoban. It's like, oh, Hakuho's here. It's like, oh, Terunofuji's, Shin Yokozuna. There was always something we could blame.
Right.
No more excuses for Shodai. Unless he breaks his back or something. And then one excuse for Shodai.
There's always going to be something else that pops up. There is.
Wishful thinking, perhaps.
Perhaps. So we'll see what he's got. He's just one of those guys that, we'll see when the tournament starts. We've got nothing else to go by at this point. So next is Takakeisho, who scraped by. It was looking so bad. I thought he's not going to be able to keep Ozeki. Everybody thought that. He had commentators and newspapers and different people saying to him when he went 0-4, this isn't worth it. You have a long career ahead of you. Just stay out of the tournament. And Takakeisho was like, no. And I don't know if he's crazy.
A little, maybe.
I think he's got to be at least a little crazy. Or if he really has this old school, old Japan, old sumo way of thinking. And Chris was talking about it. You should go back and watch how he worded it. But basically, Takakeisho said, I'm not worried. If I'm strong, I'll win. If I'm weak, I'll lose. And it doesn't get more simple than that. And I have to say, whether it's crazy or not, it just made me like him more, which is so terrible because he's going to torture me his whole career. I thought that was super impressive to, just put it all out on the table and say, well, let's see what I got. No excuses, no nothing. You don't worry about it because it's let's just see what happens. He's probably never going to be Yokozuna, but I shouldn't count him out. But man, he's got to be one of the most focused and, just battle-ready guys out of the whole list besides maybe Terunofuji. He just got what it takes mentally. If he could get the physical stuff all together, he'd already be Yokozuna if he didn't have the short arms and the constant weight fluctuation that either it gets too heavy and it screws him up or too light and he loses his power. He's got the heart and the mind of a Yokozuna. And I'm going to like him no matter what rank he's at.
He does. He did show the resolve. And when he did lose out the gate, we're like, I don't know how much of this I want to watch. And he sort of proved us all wrong. My thought on Takakeisho is the same thing that it is for Shodai, and that he has a clean slate. What's interesting is how much they're two different sides of the same coin. You say, Shodai, you have a clean slate. I say, no excuses. I go to Takakeisho and I say, clean slate, go murder everyone.
Right, exactly.
There is nothing holding you back anymore. And so I'm looking forward to Takakeisho getting double-digit wins without breaking a sweat. And also looking forward to the revival of that Terunofuji Takakeisho.
Yes, and it's like this step-up rivalry because they had this great thing going, especially in November. That's when Takakeisho won last year against Terunofuji in that playoff. I still have that recorded, and I will watch it for the rest of time because it was beautiful, and I don't know if it'll ever happen again. But now it's Takakeisho the Ozeki looking higher against Yokozuna Terunofuji. The whole dynamic is now different. Terunofuji has nothing to prove. They're not on equal ground anymore. But Takakeisho, he's always driving. So, yeah, if he's in good shape, it is a signal like, go. Do it. Crush everybody.
Getting ahead of myself, we usually talk about this at the end of the podcast, but Terunofuji, Takakeisho, 14-0 on the last day.
Wouldn't that be just the greatest?
Because then we had this before with Hakuho and Terunofuji, that it was just the collision course. I have a feeling it'll be 1 or 2 losses on both of them. But this is the energy I'm getting. These two guys are just going to be like, oh, we both had some stuff going on. Now that that's out of the way, let's get back to what we're good at, which is making this rivalry a legend.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you. I really hope nothing comes in and interrupts, because it didn't with Hakuho Terunofuji. This is the matchup that makes the most sense to close out this crazy year.
Yeah.
This is the matchup that we all want to see, even the people who aren't the hugest fans of Takakeisho, unless it's like one of these young guns, that you're like, oh yeah, let's see what you got. There's a lot of people on here who have been hanging out for a while, and they don't have anything even close to competing with Terunofuji. So I hope that does happen. It would be a great way to end the sumo year, and I hope it's like another thing I can record and watch for 10 or 20 years.
Alternative answer, playoff.
They've done it twice.
They are magnets for playoffs.
They're magnets for playoffs, and they each have taken one off. I think Terunofuji, has he taken 2 off of Takakeisho?
They've both won once in a playoff.
So it's dead even. This would be for all the marbles.
I will revise it. I don't want the 14-0. I want the playoff rubber match.
Yes.
That's my new prediction.
And the thing is, Takakeisho really wants to get another title because, he's got this Ozeki pride thing that's getting all screwed up. But he definitely surpassed the previous Ozekis that were... Like, has Shodai even won since he became Ozeki?
I don't think so.
I don't think he has, and I don't think Asanoyama... No, Asanoyama hasn't either.
No.
Takayasu never got a title. Goeido got 1.
He only won once.
Yep. So Goeido only had 1. So Takakeisho is the only Ozeki to get... because I don't think...
Goeido didn't win one recently. He may have won one.
He won
prior.
1, and I think that was it.
Takayasu did not win 1.
Exactly. So it would be good for Takakeisho to put some distance on these guys and pile on some of the trophies, just to prove his Ozeki worth.
Yeah, and if he is aiming higher, you do need 2 of those.
Right. And it would be nice. It'd be nice if we had a Yokozuna run, but...
We'll see. Well, let's get through...
Yes, let's get through
November first.
Okay. So, after all that talk, we now have our favorite guy to just laugh and, I don't know. Mitakeumi, Sekiwake Wani, same exact rank. Is anybody surprised? 9-6. Like I said, he's the salaryman of sumo. What is there to say?
What's your favorite joke about Mitakeumi? Now you can say it. I feel like he's in a weird spot because... he's running out of those windows to steal a cup away.
Yeah, he took advantage of the ones he had. But now it's like the door is closing. There's only a crack.
Yeah, it's... on one hand, it's still not off the table. If Terunofuji has a weird spiral, if Takakeisho gets injured again, like he's back on the table. But in the same way that Shodai has the clock ticking on him, Mitakeumi's got it too. These people that were like, oh, they're the young guns. It's like, well, now they're just the guns.
Right, because it's been 3 years since, they made their run. And unlike Takakeisho and these other guys that are coming up, they're still young. They still have time on their side. So the Mitakeumis, the Shodais, even Daieisho, they are starting to, like, see their sumo career going past.
Yes.
And they're going into the elder time, and they might be looking at more of a Tamawashi, you know, late championship instead of, like, making a run for Ozeki.
Yeah, but this has never bothered Mitakeumi, clearly.
No, he seems to be pretty even about it.
Yeah. It will be, as always, a nice meter stick for those coming up, and a good threat for those above him.
Yes, because he can beat anyone on any given day.
Uh-huh.
It's that he can't seem to string together those wins.
Yeah. He's the kind of person that is now going to be compared to other people. He's sort of like losing control of his own main character status in this story.
That's
so
good.
The more I look at Mitakeumi, the more I'm like, this will be a good win for Shodai, or that will be a test of Takakeisho's resolve, or who's a newbie coming up here? Oh, he'll have a fight with Endo.
Oh yeah,
He's not a new guy, but is he? Then I look up. Oh, maybe he's close enough to Ura. Like, that's what I'm doing with Mitakeumi now. And Mitakeumi, please prove me wrong.
We always want to be proven wrong.
Flip my script, please. I am desperate.
He did go to the interstable practice, so that's always a good sign
Yes.
to see him putting in that sort of effort. I will say, I didn't think he worked as hard as some of the other guys.
He never does.
I saw it for myself. I'm like, yeah, these other guys look like they're gonna die. And Mitakeumi's like, you know what? I need to go get a drink. I'm like, come on, man. But look like Onosho looks right now.
Yeah, that is worth mentioning, that these interstable practices, a lot of people will cite them as sort of a positive influence. Myogiryu mentioned it as something that really helped him, and then he was 11-4.
Yeah.
And that was the first time he'd been to those in a while, and he said it sort of reinvigorated him. So it's always, it's these little X factors, this battle of inches sometimes.
Absolutely. You need every little advantage that you can get. So next we'll go to Meisei. He maintains his rank. It's a different vibe with him maintaining his rank versus Mitakeumi, because this is newer for him. But it could be the Takanosho situation if he doesn't rise to the occasion. He had an 8-7. He looked good, but are you going to just plateau and like this is your ceiling, or are you going to like pull up and just go ahead? I don't know. I love Meisei. He's a dark horse for me, but I don't know if he has the extra gusto. He's going to have to show it.
Every day, my opinion changes on Meisei about what that 8-7 he got me. So sometimes I'm like, he's making the cut where a lot of other people are struggling. Like, Wakatakakage up and down. And a lot of people, when they hit Sanyaka, they just fall out. And so, like, I look at that other times, I'm like, that was an 8-7, and he was fighting like crap at the end. That was a desperation 8-7, and it's Sanyaku ranks. Every scrape you can get matters. So I'm in this weird middle ground for Meisei that I don't know which way this wind is blowing.
And this is another tournament where you can get an idea.
Yes.
Like, you're coming in with a question mark on a guy, and what he does here kind of cements what you're going to think for the next couple of tournaments.
Yeah, it's a lot more optimistic for Meisei because he's, like you were mentioning before, the younger guy coming up. So even if Meisei if it all fell apart for him, I'm like, get it back.
Got time.
2022, the year of Meisei. So I don't know. He's sort of a welcome mystery, I'll say.
I like that. That's a good way to sum it up. It's like, it's an exciting mystery to be wondering about, as opposed to like having an anxiety attack about.
There's no anxiety. It's not like a known quantity. And at the same time, I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's enough going on here that I can sort of let the tournament unfold and then just like watch with earnest.
Yes. So Meisei, good luck. We're gonna see. Next is one of the biggest enigmas of sumo, far more of an enigma than Shodai, and that would be Ichinojo. He went 8-7, so he's Komusubi 1 East. Is it time for him to get double-digit wins?
This is an Ichinojo who's not coming off COVID.
True.
The big X factors is that, same as Meisei, you get you get 8 or more wins in Sanyaku, it doesn't matter how you get them. That's a good look.
Right.
So, this is another story of Ichinojo, no more COVID. You're right where you assumedly wanted to be. He wants to go higher. There's a boatload of people underneath him that want his seat.
Yeah, he's in the sort of the gauntlet.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can take that momentum and push forward. And again, he's one of the people I look at as like probably one of the best candidates for Ozeki in the Sanyaku.
He always was, and it was sort of strange when I think it was a back injury, when he just got knocked out and was in Juryo for a little while. It didn't make sense considering his size, considering his skill level, considering how long he'd been around. So he has always been a potential to be an Ozeki and just never quite got there.
So this is the not an ultimatum, but more of a Ichinojo, you made it where you wanted to be. Now what are you going to do? Are you going to push forward? Are you going to tread? Is it going to be a little too much?
The thing he's got to watch out for is relying on the easy slapdown. Now, that one tournament that he had where he almost was up with Hakuho, he pretty much slapped down like 11 of his opponents because he is the bigger guy. He's taller. He's bigger. If they're coming right at him, it's just easy for him. But if people are wise to that, he loses some speed when he tries to do that. And he puts in a position where he can be driven straight out because he's not in a good position. So he needs to stay focused. He really does. And Takakeisho, when you fight him, just, I don't know. Do the Hakuho, go way back in the Shikiri-sen, do like a slap box thing, whatever.
He did do the hands out and like absorb the Tachiai the last time. That was probably the right move because his neck was still injured at the time. Injured neck. And
I'm sure it's not perfect now. You don't just like recover like that. But let that be a lesson to anybody who's fighting Ichinojo and him. Like, if that's what people are going to do, that slapdown's never going to work. Might work on the little guys. The guys who don't know you that well.
He needs to do that hungry belt stuff that got him up here.
The belt stuff really put him at an advantage.
Yes.
Because he's so big, he can just lift you out like Tochinoshin used to.
Yeah. Though I think that at least, I would say, 8 of the people on this top list, if he tries to slap him down, that's it.
Yeah.
You can't slap. You can just slap Mitakeumi down. Come on.
No, definitely not him. Unless you bust his eye open first. That's a different strategy. I don't recommend it. So next we have rising star Kiribayama. He is Komusubi 1 West. This is his debut in Sanyaku. He's up from Maegashira 2 West, 9-6. This has been coming for a while. He's wanted this spot. He's worked hard. He's done the whole get up to Maegashira 1, get knocked down, the roller coaster thing. Is he ready to take it to the next level?
So, traditionally, the first time you step in Sanyaku is never a good time. That being said, Meisei seemed to do okay with it, and Kiribayama has been showing the steady improvement to say that maybe he belongs here. I will default to the former, and then let him do the latter to prove me wrong, I'll say. Not that Kiribayama isn't ready, but that Sanyaku it's a different kind of pressure. And, I mean, it happened to Wakatakakage, it happened to Hokutofuji. That you get up there, and it's only a few more ranks higher, but it is a world of difference in the way that everything feels. Especially
because you're fighting the higher ranked guys, and people are looking at you like you're a sandwich and they're starving. Yeah, it's just one of those things where when the target is on your back, the pressure is so immense, particularly because you want to keep that spot, that you got all kinds of issues. Like your Tachiai gets screwed up, or you have one loss and you go home and you don't sleep all night. We don't really know much about Kiribayama's mental game.
This will be, like a lot of people here, just like, show us what this is about. This seems to be the theme of November.
Yeah, there's a lot of these guys, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot of, now is your chance. This is the opportunity. What's going on with you?
I would imagine that almost everybody on this list is thinking about the fact that Hakuho's gone, and everybody wants to make their mark in the first post-Hakuho world.
It's new territory.
It is. He's always been there, and there was always the specter of him coming back. So maybe some people will be more relaxed, but maybe some people will be more hungry. And Kiribayama, I expect him to be hungry. We'll just see if it matters.
See if it matters.
So next we have Daieisho, up from Myogiryu 4 West, 10 and 5. Can he break the Sanyaku ceiling? Essentially, Daieisho is the guy who has a lot of potential, but has never put it together. Part of it might be being a pusher thruster. It's just it's a temperature kind of style where if you're cold, you're just done. Your whole tournament's done. And if you're hot, you win the tournament. And combined it with a lot of injuries that popped up later, he's just somebody with potential, but can he put it together?
When we were talking about Mitakeumi and you had referenced how him and Daieisho were sort of on the second half, that is exactly what I was thinking for Daieisho. I feel like we had the moment, he won the tournament, he's been in Sanyaku, he sort of hit the point and he went back down, and so now it feels like he's clawing for position rather than pushing upwards.
Yeah.
And big Daieisho fan, as people know, so this is not coming from a skeptical eye, this is I don't want him to go. It's going to be interesting to see if he can make a second push at it. So him and Takanosho, both people who have been there and fell out of it. And so two people who may be trying to find a way in. And maybe for Daieisho, that's not in the cards anymore. Maybe for Daieisho, somebody higher up just is going to have one little slip and he's back in.
Right. And then you ask yourself, like, if he gets back in, is that, time's running out for him too, like you said. Is the best he's going to do is hang out in Sanyaku for a little while? And, when you see a lot of these former coaches on the sides and stuff and they talk about him, many, many of them were like Daieisho. They ended their career in Sanyaku and that was good enough.
Good enough.
We'll see. I know Daieisho doesn't feel like it's good enough, but...
It doesn't. So if he can get back in there, then that can be momentum. For what? Hard to say. Hard to see him as Ozeki.
It is.
But the first thing he needs to do if he wants to get there is to kick somebody out.
If he has another dominating tournament and he wins another title, which really a big stretch.
Bit of a stretch.
But if he did, it would change the dynamic of the situation. Mm-hmm. So next we have Wakatakakage, Myogiryu 1 West, up from Myogiryu 3 East, 9 and 6. This is the coming back up Wakatakakage versus the falling down and trying to find himself Wakatakakage. He's always been sort of my dark horse to be the next Hakuho, in spirit. There will never be another Hakuho.
Yes.
But there can be wrestlers that have the essence. And he always seemed so impressive being this young guy with a smaller frame with just the confidence to fight anybody. He never seemed nervous, even if he was. And he had the right sort of skills, and being a little smaller, he had the speed on top of it all. So I'm going to stick with my original feeling that he's going to be going places. And I think November could be a really good opportunity for him to challenge for the tournament. I'm not trying to make claims that he's going to win the tournament, but I think he could be in the mix.
Be on that scoreboard on the second week.
At least.
Yeah. When we were coming out, I was mentioning that we didn't know if Kiribayama or Wakatakakage was going to get that Sanyaku slot.
True.
And it looks like Kiribayama's higher rank was the deciding factor. So, interesting to see the dynamic of those two going forward. And interesting to see the dynamic of Myogiryu 1, where you have both Daieisho and Wakatakakage, who were formerly in Sanyaku, and where Daieisho may be clawing his way back up, don't know how much farther he'll go. You look at Wakatakakage, and you're like, you don't know what's going to stop him.
Right.
It's interesting dynamics at play in this upper crust. I don't feel that Wakatakakage will be denied for that much longer. He's learning about the holes in his game. We can only imagine that he's piecing it together. And if Ichinojo or Kiribayama or even Meisei lose a step, he's right back in it. Yes,
and a big issue for him is just the learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he puts in the right kind of training and he learns sort of his weak areas, like you said, he's going to be hard to beat. But we'll see how much he's progressed since September. There's very little time to make these big...
larger...
Yeah, these big pushes, because you kind of rely on other people to fall. And then you to rise and sort of scrape in until you've learned. But we'll see, because November, like we've been discussing, is going to be a free-for-all. Which brings us to Onosho, who is Maegashira 2 East, up from Maegashira 6 West, 10-5. So Onosho is one of these guys, he's the same age as Takakeisho, which is 25. For the longest time, as Takakeisho was doing this Ozeki thing, Onosho was the same age, and so there's all this potential. But when you hit 25, now you're starting to get into the higher ages. He needs to start making a consistent run right now. He's still young enough, but he risks being a Mitakeumi because time goes by so fast. And I can't quite understand why he has 10-5 sometimes and why he's 1-12 others. 1-14 others. But I will say he worked so hard in training that I thought he was going to die. I mean, I have never seen somebody gasping for air, with the exception of Takakeisho with Hakuho in training that one time. He was gasping for air so bad, I'm like, just let him go. Please. He can't take anymore. Like, he'd be like practically dead on the floor, and Takayasu would pick him up and say, okay, we're going again. I'm like, the fortitude. They're going to massacre this man. So he's got guts. And he obviously is hungry. He obviously really, really, really wants to go higher. And now Hakuho's out. He had sort of that interesting relationship where he won the first Hakuho Cup. And I think he wants to impress. Now Hakuho will be on the sidelines watching instead of a threat at the top.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think he's going to do?
So the last time Onosho was this high, he had his Onosho of 2-13. And for a while, both him and Kiribayama were doing this thing that they had broken up and they fell down, but then they were having issues going back up. And with both of them, I was like, I don't know if you are really going to break through. And Kiribayama's hit Sanyako, so he's hit that upper gear. And Onosho's September tournament was very impressive. So he was Megashira 6, so it's just off the edge of fighting the upper people. So Onosho may still be at risk of that oh no basho. And so I think we're going to know what his deal is going to be in the first week.
Right.
If he can get a win off of anybody. If he's not 0-7 at the end of it,
then he's got a lot of potential.
There's potential. There's potential because that means that Onosho would have had to have beaten, Mitakeumi or Ichinojo, Shodai.
True.
There's no gimmies up there.
And the interesting thing about that is that's going to determine his confidence the rest of the tournament. If he takes a win off of some of these guys, now he's going to be like, oh, I can take on anybody. But if he's having crushing defeats, the second week might be, let me try to keep my spot.
Yeah. So
the first week does mean everything for Onosho.
Yeah, he's very momentum-based. It's a good point.
And that's that pusher-thruster thing, too. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a really rough style to call your own as if this is your specialty. So we wish you luck, especially going through the meat grinder that you just described. And now we go to Takanosho. Maegashira 2 West, he is down from Maegashira 1 West, 7-8. I like Takanosho, but I'm down on Takanosho. I don't mean that in a negative way, like I don't like you or whatever. I don't know if he has what it takes. He's got a little bit of that Shodai in him where not the I'm so bummed Eeyore thing, but I just don't have enough aggression to get to the next level. He's skilled, but without that, I'm going to crush you into the ground. He just seems gentle, even if he's not. Let's say I am totally wrong about who he is as a person. His wrestling style makes him seem gentle. He's like a gentle giant. He doesn't have that go for the throat, I'm going to kill you kind of attitude, and it kills him every time. Every single time he winds up losing at the edge because he didn't have that extra oomph. So it's what he's showing. I don't know if that's actually the truth. There could be something else like a power issue or an injury, but it just doesn't look like a guy who can ascend for me.
He always seems to be the epitome of the battle of inches. So when he was in Sanyaku, he had that 9 and 6. He was always sort of quietly doing fine. It was like, you're doing well enough here, but you're a half step from that Ozeki run. He never really broke that Sanyaku ceiling. And when he fell down to Megashira 1, then the question was, can he get back? And then he was that 7 and 8. Again, I think he lost on the last day. He was at that half step. And it could be that maybe it is just that little bit of hunger that he doesn't have that everyone else has. Maybe it's just the bad luck. Maybe it's Hokutofuji syndrome.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just like this is just his fate, that he's just a half step behind where he needs to be to get forward. And so it's like for Takanosho, like it is. He needs a half inch, a something. And what that is, where that is, I can't tell you. But yeah. It's like when you're doing American football and they run the 10-yard markers out onto the field and they pull the chain and the ball is like that half inch. It's just like, nah, fourth and inches, guys.
Yeah. Oh!
Crowd goes. Like, that is where Takanosho is now. And sort of where he was before. And it who knows?
Yeah, it's hard to say because with some guys you're like, well, maybe he didn't have enough training, or like, because Takakeisho is injured all the time. I don't think he was doing much practice bouts, and that was his guy. But I don't feel like that's what it is with Takanosho. I really do think it is something intrinsic that's missing. And it is a question of, is it something that can never change? Life circumstances can be that thing. You know, like having a new family or whatever, having a person to fight for, a sibling or a parent or a coach, whatever.
Just had a thought.
What's that?
He needs to be a sword bearer.
Yeah, there you go. That's what he needs. We need another Yokozuna for that. We need Takakeisho.
You see where I'm going with this.
Okay, now you've given me something else. Takakeisho, if you don't become Yokozuna, your poor protege Takanosho will never get what he needs.
It's all Takakeisho's fault.
It is, okay. I'm cool with that. Takakeisho, you're letting him down, man. And then his response would be, it's because I'm weak.
It's because I'm weak. If he would have been carrying the sword already, if that was good enough.
Yeah, I can imagine that
Thanks,
conversation.
Takakeisho. Thanks.
Yeah, so he's another big question mark, but he doesn't have the same... For me, it's like, I'm not expecting much. And I don't mean like I expect a free fall. I expect a 7 and 8 or an 8 and 7.
7, 8, 8, and 7. Double digits in neither column.
Right. Just like putting up a decent performance is what I expect. Prove me wrong. Please. So next, we're going to talk about them separately, but really, Okinoumi and Myogiryu go together.
Yes.
So it's very appropriate that they are Maegashira 3 East and Maegashira 3 West, and that they were Maegashira 8 East and Maegashira 10 West. Every single time I think, maybe this is it for them. They have some crazy tournament, like 10 and 5. He was really solid. He was really stable. Had you, let's say this was your, September was your first tournament. You would never know this guy was like having struggles before and was almost written out. He's drinking the fountain of youth or something. I don't know. So it's really good that he's still hanging around. I always get nervous when it seems like somebody's on the way out. It's like, no. But he was stable. I do wonder if Myogiryu doing so well sort of helps fuel the
veterans have their own, like, collective unconscious, that they're all attuned to each other. And whenever somebody's doing well, they sort of share the energy.
It's like, we can do it. They're like, it's sort of it's interesting how sumo is an individual sport, but there's still this team dynamic to it.
Team dynamic.
Even if you're not in the same stable. But he was 11-4. I really don't expect that to happen again. I do expect... Oh, no, I'm sorry. He was 10-5. I don't expect a 10-5 at Maegashira 3 East. I expect him to get knocked down a little bit. I'm not going to predict like some horrible score, but I'm not expecting a 10-5. I will be shocked.
It'd be great to see him and Ichinojo in a belt battle.
It would.
And that's going to happen.
Yes, we are going to see Okinoumi fight some guys he hasn't fought in a while. Mm-hmm. And that's always exciting because they probably kind of forget a little bit too, because they get used to fighting the same guys. Not to take away from that, but with Myogiryu, he was 11-4. He was in the title run for a while. I also do not expect that a second time. No. I really don't. I think...
God, can you imagine?
If they tandem this and they just knock all the young guys out, it would be hilarious.
Oh, that would be the best.
But I think Myogiryu had sort of the fire from doing the interstable training because he hadn't done it. And like we always discuss, sometimes you need a little bit of freshness. Myogiryu's been doing this a long time. This was a new freshness. This was like something to get yourself a little revved up for. He's got the skills, just like Okinoumi. They have all these skills that nobody else has because they've been doing this forever. But the power and the ability to recover is just, there's the half step right there.
There's a half step for you.
If you took their current skill level and made them 25 again, then they'd be winning, they'd be beating Terunofuji and they would be Ozeki by now. But time is not friendly. Yeah,
it'll be fun to see Myogiryu up here again. The last time he was up here, it was a bit bad.
Do you think it's going to be that bad?
I don't know how bad this whack-a-mole is going to be for Myogiryu. He will be sent downwards if he does just clean out the upper bit of Megashira.
It would be so funny.
Oh man.
Could you imagine opposite day where just every guy in the top just has a horrible first week?
Oh man, they're ironically, they can't all have a bad week. Someone's got to win.
It's true.
you go into the second week and everybody's just 4-4.
That would be probably terrible in some ways, but really funny in other ways.
Hysterical. Abi's 8-0, looking around. What happened?
Yeah. He's like, what happened when I left for all these tournaments? Did everybody, stop training or something?
Goodness.
Yeah, so, I'm hoping the damage isn't too bad for the two of them. I'm hoping that, 8-7, 7-8.
Yeah.
That would be best case scenario. I really think that.
6-9 if you gotta lose a little bit.
Yeah, 6-9, not the end of the world. I actually expect Okinoumi to be a 6-9. Myogiryu, I could see him pulling off a 7-8, but either way, it could swap, or they could fool me, and it's going to be crazy, and we're going to be laughing this whole tournament. So next is Takarafuji. He can be classified with the other two as well. Maegashira 4 East, up from Maegashira 5 West. I do think Takarafuji has a little something more than them in terms of energy, because he's always in these crazy Iron Man matches where he wins them most of the time. I'm fighting for 2 minutes and I pull off a throw at the very end. So there's something extra special about him that's kept him in for so long and made him the favorite training partner for many Yokozunas and etc. He's still, he's got a brand new baby and he's still got that wanting to do a final push in his older age to make a splash. But I do think more than anybody else, he might be one of those surprise retirements to come. It has a lot to do with the elder stock, which we don't know the status. But I have a feeling there's Takarafuji's going to be a surprise retirement sooner than we think.
Interesting. He does have like you said, he has that energy, that endurance. So that does seem to keep him a neck above most of the other veterans. I can see him getting another 8 and 7 at Megashira 4. I see him getting picked off by some of the up and comers, the hot guns. If they throw him in with Terunofuji, he's gonna have no way to win that.
Well, he won't have to fight him because they're stablemates. You're
right.
So he's got that one edge.
He's got to buy.
He's got to buy against the toughest guy in the top.
9 and 6. Easy.
Man, you can't have a better buy than that.
That's a pretty good buy.
I wonder if his career will be tied to Terunofuji's in that is he the sword bearer? Or is he the sweeper? He's a sweeper. Okay. You wonder if he's kind of hanging in there also for Terunofuji's sake?
It's gotta be.
Because there's a chance Terunofuji retires at the same time.
Yeah.
Because Terunofuji's going to be going, full speed, full throttle into the wall until everything breaks into a million pieces. So they could be tied in that sense. And I do think some of Takarafuji's energy does come from being in a stable where everybody's got to be super happy all the time.
It's got to be a pumped place.
Yeah, like they're got to be so energized in practice, and plus you win all kinds of really good stuff for your stable when you win the tournament, like the Kobe beef for a year. So you're eating better than everybody else when your guy is the top guy.
It's the momentum.
So I agree with you. I could see another 8 and 7. I would be surprised if he got smashed.
That would be a surprise. I don't see that happening for him.
He's just a very stable presence. Which brings us to a very unstable presence. Endo. Maegashira 4 West, up from Maegashira 11 East. He is the ultimate pinball. He goes from, I'm going to win, I'm so close to winning the tournament, being one of the only guys to beat Terunofuji, to getting injured, dropping all the way down, to then doing an 11 and 4 out of nowhere because he sort of quietly did it. It wasn't until towards the end of the tournament that I realized how good his score really was, because he didn't put it together to hang into the tournament bracket. He was just outside of it the whole tournament. So when it all ended and you're like, wow, 11 and 4.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, he's doing his thing. So I don't know what Endo we're going to see, because every time he gets higher, then sort of he gets injured or he loses it. And he's just so much more talented than his scores ever show. And I do wonder if there's some sort of chronic injury problem.
It could be an injury problem. So the third time's a charm I'm looking at for him is he had that super good tournament, and then it was pretty blah, but he was injured. He comes back from the injury. He's another really good tournament.
Which is a good sign.
Was there some sort of mental turnaround? Did he turn some sort of a corner? Did he maybe in some part of it he's just like, well, I'm hitting that point where everything's falling apart anyway, so maybe I shouldn't be holding back as much. Speculation. But this is the closest thing to consistency from Endo we've seen. And he gets double-digit wins again, like that's a pattern then. That's
exactly.
We're no longer Mr. 8 and 7, 5 and 9, 9 and 5. Anyway, the wind blows. There is some final push of the gas pedal.
You have to wonder if it was the whole Terunofuji almost in the 3-way playoff. That's the closest he's been in a very long time, if ever.
Maybe you got a little taste.
Yeah, you got a taste of what it's like to be the top guy. You get a taste of what it's like to have all eyes on you for your wrestling, not just because the girls think you're cute. Because he is one of the most sponsored wrestlers. He has quite a crazy fan club, I hear. But I want to go out on a limb and say he's going to do it again.
That's where I'm trending. I'm putting the hope out. Maybe I'll get stepped on, but I'm thinking Endo, even a 9 and 6 looks good.
Wouldn't it be great if we got a Terunofuji Takakeisho Endo thing again, like we did that one tournament?
It'd be pretty nuts. He can do it.
He can do it. I really want it because he is fun to watch. He's the guy with all the tricks. Mm-hmm. He can do everything. Throws and, he's got the ura, but without sort of, like, he does it quietly. With ura, it's like, oh, this is going to be...
He goes for the wild nuts.
Yeah, this is going to be wild, people flying. With Endo, he just quietly goes in, does his thing. He's like a professional assassin. And I enjoy his matches no matter what's going on, unless he's like seriously injured and he's just getting destroyed.
Him thrown around.
So I hope he gets the results that he deserves. I'm rooting for him. So speaking of rooting for somebody,
yes,
poor Takayasu. He drops out of Sanyaku again to Maegashira 5 East, 4-8-3. The injury killed him. There's nothing else to say.
It was the death knell.
And that's always been his problem. He's had the chronic back problems. He's had issues with just different illnesses that have popped up. One time it was tonsillitis or something. He's had a lot of bad luck mixed with chronic problems, mixed with just never getting that tournament. So there was always this pressure on him that wasn't on anybody else. And it always seems to knock him down, but he always seems to keep coming back up. And the interesting thing was, as I alluded to with Onosho earlier, Takayasu was being the leader again in the interstable practice because Takakeisho doesn't go to them anymore. Terunofuji has never gone to them. So you don't have, like, he's like the vision of the highest ranked guy. He may be ranked lower than, say, Shodai, but he still has the presence of an Ozeki. And he really, really took it to Onosho. He gave him a Hakuho style beating. And I don't know whose coach was there, but that coach was just going. He never stopped telling Onosho this and that and the other thing. So I don't know if it was his coach or somebody else. But I'm watching, I'm like, is that Takayasu, like, telling him off as he's, like, putting him into the dirt? But it was a coach off camera. So here you got Takayasu doing his thing, and then this coach who was just trying to drive Onosho to literally the breaking point.
Brink of death.
Yeah, it was like the whole anime, we'll say Saiyan thing, where it's like, I only get stronger every time I die and come back to life. I'm like, please, we can't do that in real life. But you wouldn't know that Takayasu had such a bad tournament based on his demeanor at the interstable. He looked like an Ozeki. He was comfortable, calm, leading the young guys. I hope that was just a sign that he's just going to go in and do his thing this time.
Yeah, it's like the more you strip away from Takayasu, the more tragedy that befalls him, the more it's just like, this is the guy. There's no ceremony. There's no rank. There's no nothing. It's just Takayasu. And what does Takayasu do when everything crumbles around him? He just keeps going. Yeah, you can never stomp him out. It's weird in a way. It's so beforehand we're like, oh, we can make it back. Like, oh, we can get the tournament. Like, we're rooting for him. We get crushed while he's getting crushed, but from several thousand miles away. It's like, in a way, I almost feel that it's like he doesn't need our prayers in a way. Right. He's immune. He has endured it to the point that it is manifest as a shield. Yeah, like the more heartbreak, the more determined he becomes or something. It seems that way. He's getting a bit of that, like, that grit. And so before we were a little worried, like, oh, I don't know if he's going to get Ozeki. It's like, it felt like that was what was pushing him. And then it was like, oh, we need that tournament. And then it's just like he's self-propelled. Yeah, and you have to wonder if maybe now that he's fallen out of this Ozeki thing, and I don't know that he's going to make another Ozeki run, if maybe now he's just approaching it as, I just want to do sumo, this is what I love, and I'm not going to worry about that stuff. I'm going to go in and just give it my all. Yeah, it's in a way, it's almost, as a fan of Takayasu, it's liberating in a way. You're just like, wait, he just needs to throw people. Right. Wait, he doesn't need to worry about getting consecutive double-digit wins anymore. He doesn't need to worry about being in the Yusho race. He just needs to grab some young whippersnapper up-and-comer who thinks he knows what's up and just introduce him to the dirt. Yeah. And maybe that's where the focus is just to sort of be the foil for the younger guys.
I'll say this. Hakuho never, ever lost his pressure. Like, from the very last tournament that he had, and he knew he was going to retire, there was still pressure in that match to win that match, to prove something. So he was always, always, always chained to the sport in a certain way. For Takayasu, if he really has taken that, it's a good thing. You don't necessarily have to live your life that way.
I know. It's freeing. And then that is when
really good sumo comes out.
That's when the good sumo... That's when you get the Yusha race. That's when you're back in it. You just turn it all the way around. So it's just like, hey, Takayasu's just like, just go get him.
Because he can beat Terunofuji. Yes. You can only count on one hand the guys who have beaten him. We know Endo, though it was a scrape. Takakeisho, Takayasu, Meisei. That was a sweet win. Wow, I have to say that. I think that's it. Is that it? Out of the people who are left?
Well, Hakuho, but
yeah, he's gone now.
He's gone. You're right.
So I don't think Tobizaru ever did. He got somebody. Yeah, so you've got 4 guys, and Takayasu's in that category. So you got to give him something for that.
It's like you said earlier. It's just like he doesn't need the rank to still be an Ozeki.
No, he just is.
He just is.
And I didn't appreciate that when he was Ozeki, because I just came in. And all I saw was this guy who kept losing. You know, he never got the tournament, and I'm being told, if you don't win titles as an Ozeki, you're useless. There's some other stuff to being Ozeki, and he's never lost it. Goeido, it was like, once he started dropping out, he's like, I'm retiring. He didn't have what Takayasu has. So that's a high endorsement from us, regardless of his rank. We are just making him a living legend, okay? Which brings us to Hoshoryu. He had a fall. Down for Myogiryu 1 East, 5-8-2. He had an injury situation, and what are you going to do? It wasn't injury, it was he had tonsillitis.
He's the one who had tonsillitis.
What are you going to do about that? Nothing. You get this situation. It's not like you could have prevented it. You're not expecting it. Throws your whole tournament off. I think he'll bounce back. I think he's pretty bummed that Hakuho retired. He really, really wanted his shot at him. But at least he got to train with him once. And, you know, you can try to be Terunofuji's, you know, you can try to be his foil. Not going to happen this time unless he puts together some sort of crazy tournament. But that's what he's working for. Because you know he's the guy that wants to take on the big guys.
Yeah, he's hungry. And now the thing is that, like, if you feed Hoshoryu, he only gets hungrier. He only wants more. And so he's had that taste. And now this is the Western mentality. But, like, whenever they ask about him, it's like, oh, it was a privilege to fight him. And you think, oh, it's like, oh, I really wanted that fight. And, like, that's in there. But in the back of your mind, you're also just like, one less thing in my way.
Yeah.
So if there was ever that little shadow of a doubt in Hoshoryu, it's just like, it's going to be 14-1 because Hakuho's here. He's just like, I can beat all these people now. There's no chance.
And I mean, you see, so here's the interesting thing about Hoshoryu. He is probably the hungriest guy in here besides, I think Takakeisho is pretty hungry, honestly. Wakatakakage.
It's a different...
We'll see with Kiribayama, but, like, I'm talking raw, like, I want to just rip the flesh off of your bones. Yeah. That's Hoshoryu. Yeah. He's an intense guy. And when he loses, he does the things you're not supposed to do. You see him, like, give faces, and... I mean, they called him back to bow properly to Takakeisho. That must have killed him inside. Because he didn't want to bow the first time. Now it's like, come back and bow. It's like, fine. So, he's got what so many of these guys are missing. If they had the hunger of Hoshoryu with the talent that they have, they'd be beating Terunofuji. So this ball of just pure rage in Hoshoryu is quite amazing to watch. I really enjoy it. You've got to have some of the, like, tougher, more violent guys in there. You just have to. There needs to be a spectrum. You know, you have the nice guys, you have the talent guys that aren't necessarily aggressive, you have the aggressive guys. He is the pure aggression, But he's also extremely talented. I mean, that fight with Wakatakakage was one of the best fights I've ever seen. So he's got to rein it in, though. He's just got to
tighten it up.
Unlike these other guys that need to go a half step, he needs to pull back. Like, I understand you want to destroy him, but he just, like, toroed you with the red cape and you went flying. So, I'm going to predict good things for him for this tournament. I don't necessarily think he'll begin the race, but I expect him to be pretty aggressive and pretty dominant, barring any outside things we don't know about, injuries or some random illness. If he gets appendicitis, I mean, then he has the luck of Aqua, you know.
Oh boy, no one wants that.
Nobody wants Aqua's
Aqua
luck.
doesn't want that.
No. So I predict big things for Hoshoryu. Their next guy is Shimanoumi, Maegashira 6 East, up from Maegashira 7 East, 8-7. He's been very quiet for a while now. He's been struggling, but we know what he's capable of. Actually, is he number 5? Because he beat Terunofuji, didn't he?
He did.
So there's number 5.
He did.
You can count on one hand. So we know that he has a lot in him to give. We know he has a lot of just crazy spectacle at the edge. But something's, the balance is off, something's off, and he's trying, but I don't know where he's at right now.
It was a bit of a surprise. So I mean, he only, like, on paper 8-7, as you expected. He was 7 East. Like, I think I remembered him being there. He only went up a rung, but I saw the 6. I'm like, oh, he's made it.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh boy, I hope you're ready for this one.
Yeah, either you got the skills to go through this, or you are going to get destroyed.
Yeah, it's just, like you said, he's being very quiet, small gains, no like, there was the one dark horse, like, 11-4 when it was near the beginning, but after that, it was a little bit up, a little bit down, but then the slow up, 9-5, 8-7, maybe a 7-8 in there, and now it's just like, 6 East, hey!
Yeah.
Hey!
He's going to have a fight with Endo. He's going to have a fight with Wakatakakage, probably.
Yeah, he spins different. Sort of the same, like you were saying with Hoshoryu. Hoshoryu's just all aggression, going forward, dying in the ring kind of a thing. Like Shimanoumi, just like, he spins it.
Yes.
The energy goes inward for him, and then he pushes it around.
That's a very good analogy, because that's what he does. He sort of sucks you in and then pushes you right back out. It's almost like some sort of like ballet routine or something. And because he's so quiet, you never see it coming. You're like, oh, I just lost. Wow. Okay. So hopefully he's not fighting any injuries, because that might have been why he was going up and down. It's tough. Sumo's a tough sport. And a lot of these injuries are quiet. So I was a little surprised. He seems like he's talented enough to do better than he was. And maybe this little step up to Maegashira 6 East proves that. So, but he's going to be a question mark. I'm going to put a big question mark on him.
I don't know how much further he can get away with, like, the little small crawling upwards.
Might have to, like, show us something else.
Well, we're going to hit that point where it's one-way traffic. Either you're going up or you're going down.
Right.
It's no more escalators. Now it becomes a cliff face.
Yeah, it's a lot of, like, head-on collisions.
That too.
And there's just going to be wreckage everywhere at the end of this. So we'll see, especially because he will also have to fight Hoshoryu, which I wish you luck on that one.
A little bit of luck.
So we have Tamawashi. He fell down a little bit from Maegashira 4 East to Maegashira 6 West. 6-9. He was looking real rough a couple tournaments ago. Then he had a nice tournament. Now he's not the oldest because Shohozan's back.
Shohozan's back.
He's one of the oldest left, and he has, like, a bunch of records. Like, he's on some of the same lists as Hakuho in terms of endurance and wins and things like that. So he still has a lot of stake in the game, but I imagine he's going to be just kind of hanging out for a while. I don't expect some big push. I expect do what he's got to do, but he's always dangerous. Like in an individual match, the Nodowa will take your head off, and the arm lock thing will break your arm and destroy your career. Ask Chiyonokuni that, you know? So, he's somebody that I'm sure nobody ever really wants to face. Unless they've got a really good game plan against him. It's like, what kind of match am I going to have with him today?
Yeah. So, again, like just the small differences in ranks at this level makes a whole world of a difference. Because Tamawashi at 4 East, you're like, ooh, sort of. Well, we were just talking about Okinoumi and Myogiryu. They're at 3, and you're like, that's a bit of a problem for you. But like at 6, I think Tamawashi at 6 West, like that's about as high as you can get and still be pretty comfortable.
True.
And Tamawashi is going to keep doing his veteran power until the apocalypse comes.
Yes, I think you will have to drag him out of the sumo ring like Ikiyoi, because speaking of Iron Man, like he's never injured. I think his consecutive matches is still going, yeah. And he's going to be the top guy by the time he retires. I don't think he's the top guy yet, is he?
Close, if not there.
Yeah, so he sort of has this understated thing where he doesn't seem so opposing, and the next thing you know, you're out and he's not injured. You're injured, he's not injured.
Not.
Next we have Ura. He's down from Maegashira 6 East, Maegashira 7 East. It was a 7-8. It was a really hard-fought tournament. I think because he hasn't been in the upper division in a long time, there was a little bit of that rust from just having to face such big competition. He's still impressed. He did lose a lot of matches. He did fly around like a Tobizaru situation, but he was in every fight. And his fight with Terunofuji was the most epic fight.
Hold on.
I mean, he was doing this Matrix hold on, and Terunofuji's looking at him like, are you kidding me? You're not dead yet? It was just... He brings life to sumo in a way that no one else does.
When he went up to 6 East, that was a big jump because he had double-digit wins in July. Ura still made his presence felt. It was an exciting match all the time, even if somebody was beating him in the face horribly. And the 7 and 8 at 6 East is not bad for somebody who's been out of the game this long.
Absolutely.
And who doesn't have the Terunofuji-like drive going upwards. Ura is also somebody that a lot of people were definitely keeping an eye on. They fought him different, but now that he's here, it's clear he's here to stay, and that pink belt is only going to... You can only do so many things before he does some weird thing at you, and he's still trying the weird stuff. He does the weird, like, trying to sling people over the shoulder thing,
which is the craziest thing to see.
Contorts his body, does weird. He did the thing, the Daieisho. He grabbed and just whoosh.
Yeah, just moves you're never gonna see again.
Never gonna see it until Ura tries it again.
It was great that they let Ura fight Terunofuji. I know that was sort of breaking the rules or whatever, but they have the same exact story, except Ura's probably never gonna get to Terunofuji's level, and it's merely because Terunofuji is sort of like an ice-cold assassin. He's just so good at what he does. That's why he did what he did. He's an upper echelon kind of guy that, like Hakuho, is sort of a once-in-a-lifetime situation. But Ura just brings so much to the table that he's our new Enho.
A bit.
You know, we're rooting for this guy who had to come all the way back from the bottom, who's got busted knees and the stopwatch is ticking. And he still is not afraid to try the craziest moves on the planet.
He is pretty durable. He does have that coming back. The also with a little bit of like with Meisei and Shionokuni that there is, well, a little more towards Shionokuni and a bit of, we don't know, it's a bit of a rickety bridge here, but you can still build on it. So like if Ura can get his stuff back together, then, you know, maybe he'll be trying that stuff on Ichinojo sometime soon.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine him, like, trying to, like...
Oh, like, do spins behind him, and then Ichinojo is, like, flailing at him behind.
And he, like, throws him with his neck.
It's... If he can pivot from this 7 and 8 to a 9 and 6,
I'll say this: Ura's the kind of guy that has something internal, like I was saying about Hoshoryu. It's a different energy, a completely different energy, but there's something internal in him that some of these guys could really use. Just this, I don't know if it's a drive to entertain, if it's a drive to like I wonder what drives him doing the moves that he does. Is it just an instinct? Like, wow, I see this opening, but I have such a creative mind that I'm going to try this creative move.
It's this weird, turns into expression.
Yeah, it's art. It's sumo art.
Yeah, and a little bit of madness. Just a little bit.
There's madness.
Like you have someone sensible
would not do this.
Okinomi's. Well, ironically, he tried that to Okinoumi, and he's just like, this is a serious doho. None of this nonsense here.
We will not be doing this while I'm in the ring. I am very distinguished. It's true. He does have, the slight crazy to be doing what he's doing. I mean, he fell on his neck a couple times. I was like, oh man. He just gets up like it didn't even bother him. I hope this man has a good retirement when it's over.
I hope so.
So we'll be keeping an eye out, but it's very difficult to predict what he's going to do, period. Because when you try crazy stuff, there's not usually a consistency to it. If you sort of hit the right luck, you might dominate a tournament, but if something's off, you lose these matches that you were close to winning.
A little bit of that. There's some risk. There's some, you don't do this stuff if you think there's a cup coming towards your way.
Yeah, you're doing this for some other reason, and that's why I say I don't know what goes on in his head. Is it I want to entertain the fans? Is it that I want to see how many techniques I can do? Is it just the way he sees angles? Maybe he's a painter behind the scenes and we don't know it. And his sumo is an expression of art. It certainly feels like it. So, best of luck. I hope we get to see some really cool stuff and no injuries. And I hope he's around for a long time.
At least one more tournament.
At least one more tournament. So next we have Chiyoshoma, Maegashira 7 West, down from Maegashira 5 East, 5 and 10. They didn't drop him as far as I expected.
They were pretty nice to him.
They were nice to him. Which, maybe that's a veteran thing. Maybe it's like, you've earned it. But I'll say, he didn't look like the Chiyoshoma we had been seeing. Like, he had this nice thing going. And apparently Maegashira 5 East is just too high.
He ran out of tricks. You can tell that he got desperate in a few fights. That he was doing flailing. He was moving around a lot. Maybe he just didn't know how to handle the people all the way up there. But now that he's lower, those tricks are back in season, baby!
Yeah, and maybe he learned some things so that if he has a good enough tournament, when he gets up there, he'll say, wait, don't try that again.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
Take this out of the bag for this guy.
It'll be interesting to see if the lower rank actually brings out something in him because of hitting the wall the last time. He's a big question mark, though, because we don't really know where he belongs yet. Is 7 too high, too? Or is it perfect?
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So next we go to Kotoeko, Maegashira 8 East, up from Maegashira 11 West, 8 and 7. Okay, this was finally a time to see a Kotoeko that was, putting it all out there. For many tournaments in a row now, he has looked awful. And I thought to myself, is he just in over his head? Is he too small? Is he not aggressive enough? Is this just not going to work? And he really surprised me in September. I didn't know he had that kind of guts. And so, I don't think Maegashira 8 East is too high for him. I think probably 5 is where he gets into trouble. But I'll say, it was a different side to him, and I really hope we're going to see another elevated version of him this time. Like, it's going to be a pattern instead of a fluke.
Yeah, it felt like that 8 and 7 was a bit of a breakthrough. And that he got all the way up there before, then he got just completely slashed down. Had some issues, sort of regrouping, but then the 8 and 7, still an 8 and 7, still not a statement. But the statement was more in his heart, in his technique, in the grit that he was showing. And so for Kotoeko, just keep whatever you did in September, it worked.
It worked.
It worked. There is something in there that you got figured out. Your journey of self-discovery had reached a positive conclusion. You have borne fruits of your labor.
After many, many tournaments of, like, nothing working.
Nothing working, seeming lost.
Yeah, so hopefully he proves something to himself as well that shows him, I do belong here, I can do this, maybe I need to lean more into some of this stuff I was doing and back away from some of these other tricks. I'm going to reserve judgment on what I think he's going to do until this tournament. I really have a big question mark over him because I didn't even expect him to do what he did. So I think November is a tournament for him as well to prove who he is as a wrestler and what he's capable of. So, which brings us to a very appropriate partner in Tobizaru.
Yes.
Maegashira 8 West. He maintains his rank with a 7 and 8. So that was interesting. He's got some fans of his or some connections in the upper ranks because he has had very favorable rankings in multiple tournaments.
This was the weird part of the Banzuke. There's not a lot of surprises. A lot of the ups and downs. Last time we were just like, what's going on with that? Here we've got this cluster of 4 people, 7 and 8 who retain rank.
Yes.
Now, it sort of makes sense because some of the people that went up sort of like went up really up, and a lot of the people underneath them that went down had a really bad time of it.
And so they had to go down.
And so they had to go down, and so these people who were showing the fighting spirit, which if you look at all 4 of these guys...
All 7 and 8s, right?
All 7 and 8s, yep. All definitely put it out there.
And they do like to sort of cluster their... they don't make individual choices, they make cluster choices.
It seems to be a group choice. So for Tobizaru, there's definitely some of that favoritism. There do seem to be important people that really like him, which is very understandable because Tobizaru is way fun.
He's very likable. So, I mean, I'm not begrudging it. I'm just noting it because it's funny.
It's interesting. It's a quirk. It's a curiosity. It's neither good nor bad.
It's as quirky as he is.
Yeah. It's definitely for him. I think if he gets a 7 and 8, that he's not gonna. Well, maybe he was. Actually, you know what? I was saying this for 2 tournaments straight. I was just like, yeah, they gave him once, but they usually don't give those again.
And he just keeps getting it.
You know what?
Maybe there's some luck in there, too, because of the other 3 guys, but maybe he created luck for them.
Maybe, yeah.
So that they could kind of hide what they were doing.
Maybe there's some, like, airtime quota. That, like, if Tobizaru gets, like, 5 seconds of airtime through the whole tournament, just going crazy, flying, getting launched out the dojo, they're just like, be nice to him.
You know, it's funny. There has to be, and I'm not saying with the rankings, but there has to be some consideration of the guys who draw the most attention because they let Ura fight Terunofuji.
There's some of that.
They knew that the crowd wanted to see that, so there could be something to what you just said where people buy tickets if they get to see Tobizaru. So there could be something to it. I'm not trying to peddle conspiracies, but, you know, there's always a little bit of truth when you see weird stuff going on. But let's talk about his sumo. He's struggling.
A little bit. He'll have his days that he's just like, yeah, he belongs here. And then there'll be a couple of other days that he tries to do something weird or just doesn't have the timing on the tachi-ai and he just goes nuts.
Right. I think he was the Ura before Ura was here, even though Ura was here before Tobizaru. So while in Ura's absence, Tobizaru filled that role, though he's not as talented as Ura. He's so wild in the way that he approaches sumo that it's either going to be spectacularly successful or a complete catastrophe. And that's a tough style to stay consistent with. And now he's on the consistent, like, downward spiral.
Downtrend, still on the technique side, needs to get enough of that consistent to counterbalance some of the craziness. Yeah,
if he had just a few, like, signature things that he did in certain situations, he might be in better shape. I hope he's working on that, because, you know, I don't want to see him go back to Juryo. It's been nice since he's been here.
It has been nice.
I'm going to let you do all the talking for our next guy, because he's your favorite. Aoiyama, Maegashira 9 East. Also gets to keep rank.
Gets to keep rank. It's the same story for all four of these guys in a way that like the 7 and 8 was the hard fought but not hard enough to get the wins kind of a 7 and 8. Aoiyama has been pretty consistent since that March flare up, and that he's strong, he's got the focus, he's got the power, and he's also doesn't have it all together due to just age, things held together, a lot of that like fallback pulling, a lot of the I don't know how to get out of this. It's him and Kaisei for me are sort of in the same. It's just a matter of how long they can keep it together. For Kaisei, he's lower down. So to Aoiyama's credit, he does have the power, he does have the aggression, and is at least either fortunate enough not to have as bad injuries as Kaisei did, or is just better at managing them.
I wouldn't be too surprised if it's better at managing them, because he has had some back stuff, some knee stuff. I mean, he's been hurt a long time, but managed to stay aggressive and managed to be, a top guy. This is also an opinion. There's no way for me to know, but when I look at Aoiyama and I look at Kaisei, Aoiyama's a beast, and Kaisei seems kind of nice.
Yeah.
So that little bit of niceness seems to hurt him in that, he doesn't push as hard as he could. Aoiyama doesn't care. Like, he wants to beat you. Yeah. And he doesn't care if you get hurt.
He'll hurt you.
He will hurt you. Whereas Kaisei will try to, like, pull you back off the edge. Aoiyama will, like, clothesline you off the edge. Yeah. As long as he gets a win.
He'll make sure you go. He'll make sure you fall.
Exactly.
Now, maybe this isn't to say that he goes out of his way to do it, and I think Aoiyama has done the...
Yeah. But it's just, you see a difference in approach.
It's the mindset.
Yeah, like, Aoiyama, he's not out to hurt you, but he's out to win.
He's out to win.
He's just a very serious fighter. I mean, him and Tochinoshin are the grunters.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, if you were there in person, you'd probably run out of the ring like, ah!
Oh, no.
He's very intimidating. Kaisei's not as intimidating, and they're like the same size.
Basically.
So they're like two sides of the same coin, like the nice side and the meat side.
The naughty side.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it is a matter of time, and I really just think it's his body. It's not his skill level. And if he can get a little reprieve where he's at, getting the Megashira 9 East and the competition isn't too rough, maybe he could do a little healing, but he is up there in age, so he's never going to quite heal the way he would have in the past.
5 years ago, 10 years ago.
I wish we had been watching when he was more dominant. I think he was in Sanyaku.
He was.
It would have been cool. We should go back. There's quite an archive on Jason Sumo channel. We should go back and watch old Aoiyama matches and just see, like, how much scarier it was to fight him when he had, full health. So next is Hidenoumi. Same rank, Megashira 9 West, 7 and 8. He's still newly in the into the upper division, so he's doing this battle between, am I a Juryo fighter or am I an upper division fighter? He's got his brother up there, so he's got this sort of incentive because they can I'm assuming they can interact a lot better when they're in the same half of the same half of the tournament. So he's got some personal interests. He's also got just the fact that once you're up there, you don't want to go back. But I ask myself, and only he can answer it, is he an upper division fighter or is he a higher level Juryo fighter?
I still maintain that Hidenoumi had bad luck. 3 matches. There was still the match that he didn't put his hands down, and
that was weird. Yeah,
that's 8 and 7 right there.
Okay, that's a fair point.
And so he had a few of those kinds of matches, and I want to give him slack because I like him and I like the way he fights. And every once in a while, he'll just pick someone up like they're made of paper mache. I'm like, I need this. So I can't. I would be hard for me to argue. Like Hidenoumi and Tobizaru both have this sort of imposter syndrome kind of an energy to them that you wonder how much of them being up here was just things working out for them, and how much of this was them that they deserving. Which of course you don't get this far in sumo without clawing every inch of the way. But then when you reach this point of it, there does seem, it's in that battle of inches, how many of the, maybe you got a couple inches from just throwing a guy at the right place at the right time. So for Hidenoumi, like, that's 7 and 8, I'm just like, garbage. He gets to 7 and 8 in November, I'm like, I can't fight that anymore.
That's a fair point. I did forget about that, and that's one of those times where, like, the ref effectively, not intentionally, but if he doesn't call it, what are you going to do? It's just bad luck. So, I mean, I'm holding out for Hidenoumi. I will hold this line. and then again, once he starts losing on his own merit, I will not have a fight. I'll die on the hill. That's what it'll be. It's a fair thing to die for. So next we have Chiyotairyu. He kept his rank, 7 and 8. He's definitely on the downward decline. It started with the weight loss. He had like this... Anytime you start changing your sumo, it can screw you up for a long time, but he's out of time. So I think he gained some of that weight back, and we saw the Tachi-ai come back, the powerful Tachi-ai. But he's an aging veteran, and once again, you don't know if there's an elder stock thing or if it's just he wants to stay in sumo. But I could see when things align that it's done for him. It just doesn't look the way he did 3 years ago.
It's on the way down. It's can he hold it together? So starting with Chiyotairyu, I started to take note of this because this is tennis, so we hit double digits, and that's sort of my mental marker for you're going to stay in the upper division. There are a lot of veterans from here into the bottom of the list. And part of this is because 3 of the people who came up from Juryo were former veterans themselves.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is normally this lower section is like a mixture of people fading, people injured, and the new hotshots coming up. The latest batch of hotshots have already shot higher.
And there's nobody behind him. With
the exception of Kotonowaka, pretty much everybody on the list, well, I guess in Abi, but Abi's fresh from Juryo's, and we have no...
That's a whole other situation.
Yeah. Also, we have every reason to believe that Abi is going to be in the Sanyaku discussion in 3 tournaments' time.
Right.
So, looking at, like, everyone else here, we have this weird, like, veteran mosh pit, is what I said. Mm. And the majority of the people here are going to be these fading people, and so we're going to have this interesting dynamic, starting with Chiyotairyu, and then a similar story as we work down, where a lot of people are sort of just scrapping together to try to get things to work.
And you wonder, once again, this is all speculation, I have no insight into this. They asked Hakuho to stay. Are they asking some of these veterans to stay until the younger guys are ready?
It's possible. And there's some of it... Now, this is not the case for Chiyotairyu, because you can look at the number of Chiyos on the list, and you know that everything's fine, but sometimes if there's only a couple of people who are salaried wrestlers...
It hurts the stable.
It hurts the stable for you to retire. Also, there's the elder stock thing that we mentioned, that if you retire and there's no elder stock waiting for you, and maybe you're not high enough or you don't have enough tournaments under your belt to have a longer tenure...
Your career's done.
Yeah. Or maybe you just like fighting.
Now, that's possible for most guys.
Yes.
But I will say this, it's really just the question of who's still in this because they want to, and who's still in this because they got no other choice. Mm-hmm. It's becoming more, like, sumo in the past had so many more wrestlers, and things were just different, that guys weren't forced to stay in as long. This is a new era with a lot of complications, because they aren't getting as many recruits as they used to get. So it's really just us guessing, like, who's just in it because they're still in it, and who's in it because it's like there's other factors. And we'll never know because we don't know anybody's personal business.
It ain't our business.
No. Which brings us to the shortest thing we're going to say. Asanoyama is in Maegashira 10 West. This is his last time. This has felt like an eternity.
It's been a while.
So it'll be good for him to drop down, like, because the sooner he drops down and the punishment's over, the sooner he can come back up. And it's a shame that he's taken up a spot that somebody in Juryo...
Yeah. It does feel appropriate that he goes down in the same tournament that Abi comes up. And that
is interesting. I didn't think of that.
Coincidence, naturally.
It is, yeah.
But, so, like, we're looking at Abi, and the narrative for Abi is he's paid his dues, and all Abi's saying is, it's like, I've learned so much from this experience, and even if he's BSing, even if Abi's done nothing over the last year, he was in Sanyaku before. He'll be back.
He's going to take Asanoyama's spot.
Basically.
If he's in the right shape.
So, egg timer from now, when Asanoyama is where Abi is, 15 West in 2 years' time, he will be talking about how he's paid his dues.
That's right.
He's ready to go. He wants to rededicate himself to sumo. He wants to reclaim his lost honor. And then all we're going to be talking about is when he's going to be back in Ozeki.
Exactly. It's like, once you pay your dues, that should be it. No grudges left. We move on. I mean, they pay a pretty hard price. People don't pay the price in other sports like you do in sumo. My goodness. We will get to that with Abi in a second. But they go through a lot if they get punished. So, rightfully deserve to be accepted back in if nothing else crazy happens.
Sanayama, see you in 2 years.
See you later, buddy. Kotonowaka, Maegashira 11 East, down from Maegashira 3 West. 3, 7, and 5. He's one of the guys that things just aren't going his way. Like, one of the young guys that there was a lot of high hopes for. And between injuries and just some mental stuff, which could be connected to the injuries, he just seems like a wilted flower. Like, he just can't get it to where he should be.
It's going to be a weird trial for him, because this now there's the physical. He was injured, so he's recovering from an injury, but this is all mental, because he had that. So, like, with Hoshoryu, like, he had the taste and then he got injured, but he was high up enough and he did enough stuff. But for Kotonowaka because basically he dumped out on the first week, he didn't really have that chance to get those wins. And he wasn't able to come back, like, with tonsillitis. He had to... So,
right.
He's in this weird position that he jumped his way back up and then he's fallen back to almost his exact same rank. I think he was 12, but... So, for Kotonowaka, it's going to be an entirely different trial for him, because it's going to be all mental. Mm-hmm. And he's still super young, like 22, 23. Them and Hoshoryu, they're just children. Right,
they have time to sort of go through your injuries and learn from it and, like, try to get the confidence issues out of the way. But it's good to get on the right path, the sooner the better.
Yeah.
Or else you're that guy who does that until you're 27.
Yeah, it's for Kotonowaka, he needs to focus. It's like, not on he's got the technique, he's got the body. It's just like, now he needs to get the mind. He needs to recover. It's just like, you need to think more Hoshoryu and less Takayama.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fair comparison. So we'll see. He's a big question mark, but with him dropping so far down, you would assume he'd have a decent tournament. If he doesn't have, like, at least the 9 and 6, I'll be worried.
Yeah, he should. The 9 and 6, I feel, is a fair goalpost for him.
Yeah, because it's a little better than 8 and 7, but I don't think he's ready for double digits. I think he's got a lot to work on. But, hopefully that's what this means. The great reset here is, you're so far down, you should be able to beat these guys. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of aging veterans who probably aren't even going to be here in January.
Yeah.
So next we have Terutsuyoshi, Maegashira 11 West, down from Maegashira 7 West, 5 and 10. He's a mess. It's got to be mental.
Something happens. He can't get it together. He's not harnessing the sword energy.
Not at all.
I think I had mentioned this before, that I sort of wonder if, like, he's the one who's feeling the pressure the most.
Doesn't it seem like it?
It feels like it, that he's the one. So, like, everybody was on with Terunofuji, just like, how he's going to handle the pressure of the first Yokozuna. Didn't even seem to notice. And then you go to Takarafuji, and he seems to be revitalized. And then you go to Terutsuyoshi, and now, how much of this was endemic of just his existing problems, and maybe you sort of canceled it out, that whatever energy he got was just fed into the pressure. I don't know. But he needs to flip the script.
I agree with you. It feels like Terunofuji Ascending is putting more pressure on Terutsuyoshi. Like, he's saying, I should be better, I should be greater, I want to be up there with you. It's just the vibe I get. Because he's a very talented guy. He's got a lot of tricks, but he just falls apart. When he tries the crazy moves like Ura, he just gets flattened. Whereas, you still have these images of him leg picking Asanoyama perfectly so that Terunofuji could win. Those days are gone right now.
It's almost like a past tense thing. And this is like part of my desperation for a Terutsuyoshi. I'm just like, guy, I'm begging you. But figure out what's going on.
Yeah, it's sad because he cares too. It's sad because you always want to see people live up to their potential. But he really cares and he really wants it, and nobody wants to see somebody be so disappointed. So he needs a reset. Like, he needs to chill. He needs to find a way to, like, take all the thoughts in his head and just keep it simple. If I'm strong, I win. If I'm weak, I lose. Like, that's the only way you can go into a tournament and be 0-4 and then pull it off in the end because you kept it simple.
He needs to simplify it.
He needs to hang out with some chill guys. Like, some guys need to hang out with the high-energy people. Terutsuyoshi needs to hang out with some chill guys. Maybe he needs to fight Takayasu. Yeah. He'll get beat down so bad that it'll get all that excess energy out and he'll just want to fight.
He needs a book club.
A book club's a good idea. Maybe philosophize about the inner meanings of life so that you can just chill out in the dojo. So next we have Ishiura. He maintained his rank because he had the COVID. He didn't have it, but the whole stable had to stay out. That must have been really hard for him and Enho, knowing that it was Hakuho's last tournament. I did see Enho there. I don't know if I saw Ishiura show up at the end.
No, they were in it. So they were out. Everybody was out in September, including Hakuho. Just Hakuho didn't announce his retirement.
Oh, right. That's right. I'm thinking about July. Yep. They were there at the end of July. So yeah, they were all out. So Hakuho wasn't going to come back anyway, but it must have been hard to just sit back when you're not injured. And now Hakuho's leaving, and it's a whole new world. He's going to be coming into this tournament, and I feel like it's going to feel like he's a stranger in a strange world. Yeah,
for Ishiura, there's a lot of bad timing because he had that resurgence, that strong 9-6, and you're like, whoa, this is Ishiura I remember. This is good. Something figured out. And then he had the COVID reset, and even when Hakuho was still there, we were thinking, oh man, he just lost that momentum. And now he's coming back. No Hakuho. Cold. Now the only person in the top division in that stable, because Enho and others are still in Juryo.
Yeah, he's the top guy for the first time.
Top guy. And so now like you said, a stranger in a strange land is a very apt comparison for Ishiura. And I don't know if that's the kind of guy who can handle that, or maybe he just needs a second week revival.
There's a chance, and we don't know because Ishiura has been up and down, up and down. There's a chance that he rises to the occasion, because this is his first time having this situation. He is the top guy. It's not Hakuho. He might come into this thing with this, like, stable pride thing and really wanting to show what Hakuho has taught him all this time, trying to be sort of the legacy. He's a small guy, so he's never going to get too far. But he could come in and show us something crazy. I reserve the right to believe that because it's the first time. We have no history of what Ishiura has done under pressure before.
Yeah.
This would be the first time where you see actual pressure. So I'm gonna go way out on a limb and say Ishiura comes in and dominates.
So that is the other side to this. So on one hand, this is a complete reset because he lost his COVID momentum. Now it's just new territory and how he's going to be. And on the other hand, he could just come into this and say, it's all me now. Beforehand, he had to worry about all this other stuff. Beforehand, it was this and that. But now it's sort of new day, new Ishiura. What's new Ishiura going to do?
Right, because Hakuho is also leaving the stable to take elder stock in a different stable. So it really is just him. It's like Ishiura walks into a room and everybody gets excited. That's a whole other level. And his dad is like a really famous high school sumo coach. So he's no stranger to that whole sumo world. That's how Hakuho knows Ishiura. It was through the whole high school system, which is just as crazy as any professional thing. So Ishiura is the son of a famous high school coach. He's no stranger to what that is like.
Okay.
He's just never had a chance before.
I can see that optimism. I can see the optimism.
I really want to be optimistic.
Let's see it.
I just have to throw myself in there.
I'm on board. I'm getting on this train.
So next we have... I'm going to let you do all the talking in this one too. Next we have Hokutofuji, Maegashira 12 West, down from Maegashira 2 East. I will just say this. He has fought very hard to maintain this upper Maegashira 1 through 4, and this is the first time he's crashed out in years.
Are you ready to see what happens when you play bowling with sumo wrestlers? Because Hokutofuji is about to show us.
I can't imagine what it's going to be like for him to fight these lower ranked guys.
He's going to demolish. What is Aqua going to do to him? He's going to fall over.
Yeah.
It's going to be a battering ram against paper mache. I can't wait. I am spinning this around so hard right now. And that Hokutofuji is going to wreck. He's going to get double digits. I feel like he's going to make eyes at the cup, and then they're going to throw him Takakeisho.
That's who they'd throw him.
Because that'll be like, this is the scenario. Hokutofuji's 13-0. And so you give him Takakeisho on the second to last day. Of course, he loses, and the last day it's Takakeisho versus Terunofuji. It's just the way it's going to happen.
I could see it. I really could. Unless the reason he dropped down is he's got some injury that isn't going to heal.
That would suck.
He does not belong this far down. So I could see your scenario coming to pass.
I see them giving Hokutofuji sort of like a bye.
Yeah. You're right?
Yeah, it's just like they're not giving him the tournament off, but what they're saying is, we're going to put you down there because it's not going to bother you.
Yeah, you'll zoom right back up.
Yeah.
He is going to have to fight Abi. That'll be his toughest battle.
That'll be interesting.
That'll actually be good for Abi, too.
It'll be good for Abi.
Because Abi's going to get to fight somebody who really doesn't belong down there and get a little bit of a taste, because it's going to be a while before he fights that level of competition.
It'll be a few months before he's back up there.
So, yeah, this could be Hokutofuji title, you never know.
Every Yusho could be a Hokutofuji Yusho.
That's fair.
Until he loses 3 matches, which sometimes is by day 3. But
could you imagine if he beats everybody and they're like, we're going to give you Takakeisho, Terunofuji?
They're going to do that. It's exactly what's going to happen.
Because they're going to say, of course you beat all these guys.
Yeah, you're just here, you're like, okay, week 2, here's all of Sanyaku.
But here's the scary thing about that. If he's having no trouble, he's going to be so much more rested than those guys if he faces them in week 2. Oh my goodness.
You see?
What a scenario.
He's going to be 14, he's going to be 13-2, 12-3, just special prize.
Yep, it'd be nice to get a special prize. This could be a very positive thing.
Once I figured this out, I was very happy for what I saw.
Maybe they were doing him a favor.
Just, if you need to knock somebody down a few pegs, knowing that they'll go right back up, it's the guy.
This is the closest you get to a sumo rest that you're going to get, since you can't rest for injuries. So, good luck. You're probably going to dominate.
Probably. Yeah. Injuries notwithstanding, sumo notwithstanding, and not to disparage the bottom half of the list at all. These are all... You can see Chiyomaru taking a win off Hokutofuji on a good day.
Yeah, but...
It's not a gimme. It's not a gimme.
You're being nice. You're being nice. If Hokutofuji is 100%, you're being nice. He's going to wipe the floor with everybody except for probably Abi.
Probably.
And maybe Chiyonokuni. He's always a wild man. You never know what's going to happen with him. Okay, so let's go to Takayama. Maegashira 13 East. Up from Maegashira 14 West. He's doing the slow climb back. He, unfortunately, is up there in age. He's not like the old guy, but he's in the upper age towards becoming an old guy. And he's never been able to put it together because he's perpetually injured. His injuries just don't go away. So he's Ikiyoi, but he's much bigger. He's got a lot more power. So what is this, 2 or 3 tournaments he's been back from Juryo?
I think 2. Let me look it up. Not long.
Yeah, he's been doing the Juryo game for a little while now.
A little bit too long. September was his first one back.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Almost was in July, but then they gave it to Ichi Yamamoto, which was a little suspect. But then Ichi Yamamoto earned it, and then Ichi Yamamoto took a knee into the stands, which is...
And then it was done.
That's neither here nor there.
But in March, he was in the upper division. So he only spent 2 tournaments in Juryo, but he's been ping-ponging back and forth. Also interesting if you think about Yu Takayama on the way up and Asanoyama on the way down. Maybe he could just use this little bit of momentum to at least take that spot. He's gonna have to work on inches as well. This is not a guy that I expect to dominate and jump up the ranks. He's gonna have to keep putting his 8 and 7s in, keep working hard until hopefully... I don't know. I don't know if he needs a miracle to heal or what, but...
Yeah. You know when you see those montages of people in combat military drills, and there's always that one that they're in the mud and there's razor wire and they're just crawling on their elbows, they've got their packs on. That is him right now. That is Yu Takayama, yes. So Yu Takayama needs to get under that barbed wire and just eat dirt to crawl his way back up. And then he'll get that point that it'll all come clicking back. Yeah.
I mean, that's just unfortunately where he's at and what he has to do. I think he can do it.
He can. This is always in there. He was at the top. He belonged there. And he just needed to rebuild. And for him, it is just going to be blood and sweat.
Yeah. And he's going to need some luck. No more serious injuries.
That would help.
That's killing him. But if anybody can do it, he can do it. But we're just going to have to be cautiously optimistic on him.
Cautiously optimistic, but full well knowing this is not above his reach.
Exactly. This isn't we're going to be seeing you in Juryo. It's, you can do this.
You can do this.
So speaking of one of the craziest crawl under the barbed wire guys, Tochinoshin, 7 and 8. He moves down from Maegashira 12 West to Maegashira 13 West. All of a sudden at the end, when you think... He's down and he's out. He's going to Juryo. It's over. The great Tochinoshin has finally been defeated. He scrapes it out. He's been scraping it out since he lost his Ozeki spot. He's just hungry to stay in because I'm pretty sure he's not going to become a Japanese citizen. Nope. He's not going to do anything after this is over. He might be the guy who's hanging in as long as he can because when it's over, it's over. And he's hanging in there. He's showing us that he's got a lot of guts.
Yeah, I mean, he's holding out to the bitter end. So the one thing I will say to him is that you need more than 2 wins in the first week.
That is crucial for him.
He needs... There is something, and this has been a trend for him, that when his back is against the wall, he does dig that little bit deeper to get it there. But I can't help but feel if he was 3 and 5 going into week 2, or even... 4 and 4. That would have made a lot of this easier. And I can't, on one hand, maybe he'll never get to 4 wins unless he's had 6 losses first. But at the same time, that dig can't be helping him.
Well, I think what's happening is, and this is one of those mind over matter things, his knee needs so many days to loosen up.
There's that.
I mean, his knee is completely shot. So when it starts to loosen up enough where he can tolerate the pain, then all of a sudden he starts winning. I do think that's a factor, and that's not something he can control. But maybe he needs to find a way, when Hakuho's knee was so obliterated we didn't even know it. He found a way to win without putting too much pressure on the knee, and that might be the key for him is you got such a strong, powerful upper body. Is there something you can do?
For a while, he was adding tricks. When he started pushing upwards. And then the tricks, either they haven't been working or he hasn't been using them. Or maybe he doesn't feel as confident in them that he did before.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was some confidence in using them.
Confidence. It could be, maybe he's just, there's less in the tank and he's just I gotta focus on the core.
Right. And basically, he's just always risking it all when he's out there. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know how much longer we have with him. he's going to be a surprise. Like, it's just going to be one day, okay, I retire.
Yeah.
Like, he might get himself, I doubt this, but he might get himself back up to Myogiryu 5 because he has a couple of good tournaments, and that's when he retires. Or he could go into Juryo and it's predictable and he's like, yeah, I'm done. I just don't think we'll have any idea when it's coming until it happens.
Yeah. For this tournament, my only takeaway is that I'm not going to worry about Tochinoshin until he hits 10 losses. So, like, in the first week, we're like, oh, he's done. It is a numbers game now.
Yeah.
So the investment doesn't make sense. So, if he gets, like, how many losses will put him in Juryo at this point? It'll be 10.
Right.
So, up until he has 10 losses, everything's fine.
Yeah, he could put another 7 and 8 in, and he'd stay up there.
Yeah, I think even with double-digit losses at 13 West, they may give him a nod.
They've been giving
people nods. Like, Tokushoryu got a very nice second chance, and he was an Ozeki. Well, he did win a Yusho, but so...
That's a big part of it.
Yeah. So, you know what I'll say? I'll say if Tochinoshin doesn't get 11 losses. 10, if I see a 10 losses on it, I'm still worried. But, like, if he's, like, 0-7 out the rip, I'm like, he's got 3 losses still. It's fine.
Right, exactly.
It's all numbers for him now.
It is. And all he's doing is trying to stay alive. He's got no pressure to, like, hit a certain rank or anything. So we're always happy when we see him for another tournament. Enjoy him while he lasts. Because you never know when it's going to be over. So now we have Kageyaki, Myogiryu 14 East, down from Myogiryu 13 East. 7 and 8. He just keeps going down. Nothing's been the same since... pretty much since Shobushi died. Now, I don't know that it's connected to that, but that was a pivotal moment right there where... the slide just never stopped. And you got the added factor that Ryuden is, like, floating around. And
he's back.
But is he floating in 3rd division already? Yeah. So, I don't know. It's impossible to know what has changed exactly for him, but he's not getting any better.
No, him and Terutsuyoshi have similar problems. And this is the problem that Kotoeko solved. In that they just didn't know how to put it together. They didn't know what was needed.
Like how to stop the bleeding.
How to stop the bleeding. How to stop fading away into Juryo. So Kageyaki still hasn't figured it out. And he's at the point where he's running out of time. And so, I mean, Terutsuyoshi's getting there, but like it is an imminent issue now for Kageyaki in this tournament.
And it's really sad because he sort of looks like a shadow of who he once was. Like, you can see it. It's not just, oh, he had such a great tournament, but he had some bad luck. It's like, he just looks lost out there.
It feels like he could have won some of those fights.
Yeah. And whatever's taking it out of him, it's sucking the life out of him, whatever it is. So, unfortunately, I expect him to lose again.
It's on him to change the narrative.
Right, like, the assumption's going to be you're losing again until all of a sudden we see Kageyaki come back.
Until he comes back.
So, good luck. Luckily, you're not Tochinoshin. I don't think there's any injuries. So, he can always be rejuvenated at any point. Mm-hmm. Just something has to change.
Maybe he just needs watering.
Yeah, maybe he needs to go down to Juryo and come back.
That's possible.
For some guys, that works.
That's the energy.
So next we have one of the other kings of the comeback, Chiyonokuni. Myogiryu 14 West, up from Myogiryu 17 East, 9 and 6. His biggest issue is being injured. He's got quite a bit of power, quite a bit of like aggressive brawl room fighting spirit. But because of that, he gets all kinds of crazy injuries. And so if he can stay healthy and keep up the pace and keep up the energy, he should be doing sort of like a Takayama thing where slowly rising up. But he has the potential to shoot way up. He has the potential to get double-digit scores, especially this low down, if he doesn't get injured. So...
yeah. I mean, his success and failure is simply, will you be healthy?
Yeah.
At this low down, stay healthy, keep fighting, winning record.
Right. He's 9 and 6. He very easily could be 10 and 5 or 11 and 4. Very, very easily.
Not a problem.
Once again, like, look at the people that are down here. There's a lot of easy wins in here. And I don't say that to be disparaging. It's that some of these guys, you know they're not up to the level of Chiyonokuni.
Or the vigor.
Yeah, those are going to be hard fights. And they might not even want to put in all the effort against him because they have a 14-day tournament to contend with.
It's going to be interesting to see Chiyonokuni fight Shohozan, though. The two of those guys are scrappy.
That will probably be a pretty entertaining match.
That's one veteran that if you slap him, he'll slap you right back.
And I mean, it'll be like you guys are punching.
Just saying. Maybe the scout.
I'm looking forward to that.
Put the scouter on. You can see those power levels go up.
So which one of them is Nappa? I think it's Shohozan, to be honest.
There's a bit of that.
I think Shohozan's Nappa and Chiyonokuni's Vegeta in that matchup. So next we have Chiyomaru. He's rising up a little bit from Maegashira 16 East to Maegashira 15 East. 8-7. He's the jolly man of sumo.
Jolly man.
He can sort of maintain where he's at, but he is definitely outclassed at this point in his career. He's low enough down that he could get some wins, but there are, like we discussed, Hokuto and Abi and Chiyonokuni down there. I mean, those are probably losses.
Probably.
If Terunofuji or Terutsuyoshi gets his act together, that's a loss.
Kotonowaka gets his act together, that's a loss.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys who really...
All of a sudden you're 0-5.
Yeah, so I'll say that Chiyomaru, I don't think is as daunting for him as some of the other guys, but I do think he's got actually a tough road where he's at right now.
Chiyomaru actually took a match off of Kotonowaka, but regardless, all Chiyomaru needs to do is keep his lime green belt.
Love it.
Keep that youthful reflexes and stay happy.
He better not come in with some dark blue belt. I do not like when that happens.
Drop him like a bad habit.
Like, we're done. Divorced. The guys with the flashy belts have to keep the flashy belts or else everybody looks the same.
It's so boring.
They really do look different when they change their belt. Like, even though it's the same face and the same body, I just can't recognize you without your signature belt.
Please, Chiyomaru. I have one request.
Keep the belt.
Keep the belt.
So now we have the triumphant return of Abi. Up from Juryo 5 East, Maegashira 15 West, 13-2. How long has it been since he...
Year?
A year.
Because it was a COVID violation.
Right, so that had to be 2020. So it's been a year since he got smacked down for the COVID violation. Now, that was a big deal, but at the same time, I think because of all of his previous things that he had done, the social media stuff, talking back to journalists and all the other stuff, it really made them happy to punish him, basically. Now, the tough thing for Abi was he had just gotten married and had a kid, and one of his punishments was... You can't live with your wife and your child. You have to live in the stable. And you can't go anywhere because it's COVID. So, I have to think that sacrifice really did change him. That would be really, really hard for most people. Be like, you have to live here because you screwed up. And you have to do this for a whole year. And according to Chris, he still hasn't been able to go back because I think he has to win in the upper division in order to be able to go back. So, he might very well be a changed man. The Abi that we knew before this punishment was Sanyaku level, but he had this sort of non-serious side, even to his sumo. He looks bigger, I'll tell you that. He definitely gained weight all this time. And he says all he's been focusing on is sumo. His scores certainly indicate that, but we also know the competition isn't as strenuous down below. Mm-hmm. So I have big, high hopes for Abi. I'm just going to throw it all in there that he is going to be the dark horse for this tournament. I could be totally wrong, but it's the first time and all the ingredients are there.
He's definitely nothing stopping him from getting double-digit wins, if not 12-3.
Yeah.
It is very likely. What is interesting for Abi this time around is that he's sort of a time capsule, and that like when he got thrown down, then like a year of sumo happened, in all of its twists and turns, and just the way that sumo is so very much in the present. Like, the current of everything happened, the landscape changes, and so now Abi, I think I had mentioned this before, like, even if Abi was exactly the way he was before, you'd expect him to be in the upper ranks in the Sanyaku discussion. So now here comes this you know, this anime time skip Abi.
Yeah.
What, you know, have you been with Jiraiya for a year?
Were you in the hyperbolic time chamber?
The way he's talking about how, like, he's this reformed man, he's focusing on sumo, he's a lot more serious. That's some hyperbolic time chamber stuff. That's some, I've been doing nothing.
You have longer hair.
Just been training, you know, not training with Vegeta, always a good thing.
Always a good thing.
Always useful. So, it's this extra layer to this already pretty hefty story. And this is going to be Abi's opportunity to be like, look what I've been up to.
It really is. It's a moment for him to make a statement. Now, his situation very different than Terunofuji's in that he wasn't injured. He got his pride knocked around. Terunofuji came back a better fighter. The Terunofuji who was Ozeki, that got knocked all the way down to the 5th division, who knows if he ever would have made Yokozuna. I think he would have. But the Terunofuji who's Yokozuna now is a different man.
Undeniably Yokozuna.
Yeah, there's no questioning it. Maybe Terunofuji would have been a Kisa no Sato had he not have to go through all of that trial. So it's hard not to think that Abi wouldn't be a more hardened individual, a more focused individual, a more mature individual after going through something like that. If he's not, then I'm going to be disappointed.
It would be, well, it's just, we don't know.
Yeah, it's not about the winning, but it's like, I want to see this Abi that he's talking about. It's not necessarily you got to get double-digit wins, but I want to see that something's changed. Simply because you had to go through this sort of penance situation, and you would hope that the sacrifice meant something.
Yeah, in the end of the day, this is what this sort of comes down to, is that we want to, like, why the experiment happened, why the sacrifice happened, the whole logistics of it, putting it all aside, we're like, okay, it happened. What comes out? Right,
now we get to turn the page
and
see the result instead of sitting in the, it's still punishment time.
We're at a timeout, and
it's go time.
It's go time!
So next we go from this sort of hyped thing to Aqua, who is finally back in the upper division. He's been in Juryo for a while. He was 9-6 down there. He's Mr. Bad Luck. Several car accidents, bike accidents, COVID. Has he gotten a fresh start now that he's done it all? He's back. Can we just move on?
Here's another guy who needs a page turned for him.
Yes.
Apparently, he was doing a lot of judo stuff down in Juryo, by the way, which he did.
That's cool.
He did some of that in the top division, but he didn't stay along really long enough
for us to see
it, or at least remember it as well. So, good to see Aqua back. He needs less COVID, less bad luck.
Don't drive in any cars. Don't ride your bike.
Just invest in a teleportation device.
Yes. Maybe you can talk to Abi and see what kind of things he's been working with. There's got to be some sort of device when you do time travel.
Yeah, there's got to be.
Yeah, he really does need a transporter so he doesn't have to travel to the...
Armed escort.
Yeah.
Maybe there's like a surplus store for bulletproof limos.
Right? There's gotta be.
There's gotta be.
There's gotta be a demand for it somewhere.
Got an extra Pope mobile? Just call the Vatican up. Come on.
Be like, you got one that's like...
Yeah, it's like the transmission's weird.
Yeah, we'll take a busted one. We'll drive 5 miles an hour.
It's like a scratch on the seat. Come on.
Exactly. So good luck to Aqua.
He needs all the luck he can get.
He needs all the luck he can get. Have ours. Yeah, like, I don't know, channel or something.
Something.
So next we have Asanoyama, Maegashira 16 West, up from Juryo 3 West, 10-5. This is what you were talking about. This is another veteran coming back up. He's been in Juryo for quite a while. He's going to have some need to prove something energy. That could be a good thing. He's very different than Kaisei. He's very different from Kaisei, who's in the free fall. He's coming up. And he has a lot of skills and a lot of, tools in the belt.
Yeah, he had the deep belt of tricks, deep bag of stuff when he was up here before.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
It's been a little while, yeah. It's not, when he went down, we weren't really waiting for him to come back up. We knew he could, but it wasn't something...
He wasn't really on our radar.
January of 2021. Okay. So the beginning of the year, he was in Megashira.
So almost a whole year.
So yeah, he spent 4 tournaments in Juryo, and so now he's back. And yeah, like what I was saying up with Chiyotairyu, like this whole cluster of people, they're a bunch of veterans. Some of them have something to prove. Some of them are just here for fun. Some of them are just waiting. And they're all going to be in a blender together.
Yep, and it's going to be sort of which flavor comes out more in this blender of the smoothie of life. It's hard to say because we haven't seen him in so long. We don't know where he's at. Now, I could see maybe Aqua doing some stuff because of all that judo practice. But I don't know anything about what is new that Sadanomi's is going to bring to the table.
If anything.
If anything. Might be same old, and he's right back in Juryo.
Yeah. Or maybe same old, and he pulls 10 wins out of nowhere.
Right, again. Because we've got some guys who are falling down.
And Sadanomi's, he's no slouch. He's sort of like Okinoumi Myogiryu, but just maybe that half step behind.
Yeah, I would say that he is very comparable to them. So, we will see. Kaisei. Dropped down from Maegashira 14 East to Maegashira 17 East. He's the guy you got to be the most concerned about right now.
I'm feeling like this is his swan song. I don't know where he gets 8 wins on this list.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys.
He's too far down for a 7 and 8.
Right.
When you're on the bottom rung like that, like everybody else has to do that much worse.
Exactly.
And so you're looking it through. It's just like, does he get one off of Kageyaki? Does he get one off of Chiyomaru? Does he get one off of Terutsuyoshi who tries too much? There's not a lot here for him that I can look at it and feel convinced, which sucks.
And there's even a chance that he comes in, he fights for 4 days, and then he's injured and he's done.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit that Kaisei may have is that the people low down there are the most likely to get the Juryo throwings. And because Hakuho's out, we have 41 people.
Ah, yes.
So we're going to have at least one Juryo person on the first day.
Right.
So if anybody else is injured or if some weird things happen,
they would probably give it to Kaisei.
They'd give it to...
Because Shohozan just came up.
Yes. So, yeah, and this isn't to say that somebody in Juryo would be a gimme. We can look at...
I was going to say who would it be.
Yeah, we give a little glance. I mean, the people who are going to be in the top ranks of Juryo are going to be people who were demoted. So we got Tsurugisho. Wakamoto Haru's one west. Ooh.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a good match for Kaisei.
Ooh, that's just interesting in general. Kaisho, some people we've been keeping our eyes on are over here.
Finally, some guys are coming up.
Man, where did Tokushoryu go? There he is. Oh man, they dumped Tokushoryu down there.
Juryo's looking a little rough.
Oh, look at that. Oh,
like Midorifuji, for instance. He's still got the hernia. I think he needs to get surgery.
He needs to get surgery. Midorifuji is just waiting to be off salary.
Yeah, that's a bummer right there.
That's a side note. Yeah, but anyway, for Kaisei, I don't want him to go, but I don't think I have any pull in this anymore.
No, it's looking pretty grim for him out of all the guys.
Yeah.
But you never know. The tournaments are always crazy.
Hey, you can get your wins from somewhere. I don't know where.
You have to claw them.
Intervention will be required.
Yes, the finger of God.
Yeah.
Whoop!
A spark of the divine, perhaps, to get 8 wins.
Yeah.
Because it is 8 wins or you're in Juryo for him.
Exactly. Which brings us to Shohozan, Maegashira 17 West, up from Juryo 4 East. Check him out for a second and see how long he's been in Juryo, because it's been a long time.
It has been a while. When I was looking at Sadanomi's, I was like, it's been a while. And I looked down at Shohozan, I'm like, he's been in there for a while too. He's been in Juryo for a year.
I think it's been longer.
He was, September 2020, he was Megashira 15.
Wow.
So, yeah, he's been...
It's been over a year for him.
Man, you lose track of people once they fall off that list.
Now, he is Fukuoka. I think they are having this tournament in Fukuoka.
Uh-huh.
I do think this is his last tournament. I really do. I think he's competing because he wants to compete in front of family and friends, and I think he's going to call it quits at the end.
Nearly 38.
He struggled really, really hard to get this spot. I didn't think he was ever coming back. And the timing is just perfect to come back in front of his family and friends, which is what Goeido had planned to do. And then he was losing the rank, so he didn't want to come and try to fight to get Ozeki back in front of his family and friends, which was a great call because then COVID hit, and so there were no fans there anyway.
That would have been rough.
I think this is Shohozan's final stand. I really do. I have a strong feeling. I mean, he doesn't have it.
He was before Shionokuni, he was the scrap king.
He was, and he was awesome. He stayed in for so long.
Now, I can't help but feel that somebody like that, you can't take the scrapper,
No.
You can take the brawler out of the bar. You can't take the bar out of the brawler.
Absolutely not.
So that's always going to be there. It's just time.
Right, time has caught up to him. He is the oldest guy left in the upper division, I believe.
I do feel grateful that we got another look at him.
Yeah, I thought we were never going to see him again.
I thought that was a goodbye. So it does warm my heart. He was one of the people that I latched onto earlier on as well. Me too. I mean, Aoiyama was like one of the big ones, which is why I'm such a big fan of him. Like, he was like my first favorite. Mm-hmm. And then, but Shohozan was in there too, because I remember he was, and then he had like a black eye once. I was like, yeah,
and there was always blood, and there was always before Chiyonokuni, we had the Shohozan brawls.
It was good. It was fun. It's
and he's muscle man sumo. Yeah. There's something a little appealing, like, because you have different body types. Yeah. So
maybe he gets a winning record. Maybe we get a few more tournaments out of him. I can definitely see the narrative of you fight that one last time in front of your friends and family. You get the Kachikoshi. Things look good. You get that one really good win that makes you feel good, and then
it's smooth sailing into retirement.
But hey, he's back. He is going to slap somebody very hard several times.
There's going to be blood.
There's probably going to be blood. So there's going to be somebody who thinks they can push Shohozan around, and they're going to be sorely mistaken. It's the things.
Let's see. The match that would be most interesting. I think Shohozan and Tochinoshin have battled many times. So that might be a good battle. They're both equally, a step down. So it might actually feel like an old school fight.
They're both game for it, too.
They are. Well, the funny thing about Shohozan, Chris had talked about an interview with him. He was sort of in the middle of Juryo, and he was looking terrible. And the interviewer says to him, what are you thinking? Like, not like, is it? But like, things aren't going so well. He goes, I don't know. I thought I fought good. He's got that kind of personality. Another story I want to tell about Shohozan that is one of the reasons I liked him is he looks so mean. He looks like he's going to rip your face off, and he fights that way. And one day an interviewer had said to him, you're awfully mean looking. You're very intimidating. He's like, really? I'm surprised people think that about me. So there's a guy that in the ring is totally different than he is outside of the ring. And that's why any of the speculation I have made in this tournament is purely speculation. Aww. Because there is a ring persona and there's everything else.
Oh, yeah. It's a different mask.
Yeah, so we've come to the end. We've kind of talked about what we think is going to happen, but let's just seal it up with what we think is going to happen.
Yeah, so I was very vocal about this, that it's going to be Terunofuji and Takakeisho battling it out. But as we also mentioned, there's a couple of these people here and there that are in a position for a lot of wins. That doesn't mean they'll be in title contention, but Abi, Hokutofuji, and maybe Kotonowaka on the lower half. All three of them are basically they're pivoting for a lot of good wins. And there's a couple of people up top that have a lot to prove. You got your Wakatakakage, you've got your Meisei, though I don't know if Meisei's title contention yet. You got maybe Ichinojo. Ichinojo's a dark horse, but for me, it comes down to Terunofuji and Takakeisho fighting it all, and then all these like outside elements are there to play foil, or one of them is just going to completely run away with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll put it this way. It's not so much a prediction, it's the only thing that makes sense. Terunofuji and Takakeisho are the top guys. Regardless of the fact that Takakeisho is often injured, and if he's injured in this tournament, it throws the whole thing off. If Takakeisho is at 100%, it only makes sense that Terunofuji and Takakeisho would be the only two to battle it out. If Takakeisho is injured, Terunofuji's going to run away with this thing. And it's only a matter of who's sort of a couple steps behind him. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be shocked if Abi gets right up there. There is the good chance that he's got too much rust. He has not fought top-level competition in a long time. But we also know there's the factor of he's so low down, he's going to get a lot of wins. And then maybe, the second they throw an upper division, like a top guy at him, he loses. But it's not like he doesn't have the experience. He's not a brand new guy. He's fought Meisei, Mitakeumi, Takakeisho, Shodai, Ichinojo. He's fought all of these guys. He hasn't really fought Kiribayama or any of those guys, but Endo, he's fought all of them before. So these aren't like, oh, what will I do?
What will I do?
So Abi is possibly going to be in the mix. I can only hope that Takakeisho is fully up to it. If he is, that's what we're going to get. Terunofuji, Takakeisho. Maybe Mitakeumi can do something weird because his tournament wins have always been in weird tournament years, and with Hakuho gone, everything's weird. But I'm not going to give it to him. I'm not going to give it to him. I don't see anybody else on this list who could win but Terunofuji or Takakeisho. Straight up. It's likely Terunofuji.
Very likely.
But Takakeisho could pull it off. He has pulled it off. Endo could be in the mix. Abi could be in the mix. Everybody else, this is their time to rise. Mm-hmm. Show us something different. Show us that somebody else can challenge. Because right now, I don't believe it.
It's the era of Terunofuji. Yep. Plain and simple.
So that will wrap it up for now. We are a week later than typical, so the sumo tournament starts next Sunday. We're almost there.
Just in a blink of an eye.
For anybody who has the NHK World app, we do recommend you watch the preview show just because it's interesting. It's in English, and, they hate Takakeisho, but whatever. They never talk about him even when he's doing good, and when he is, poised to do something, nah, he sucks. But other than that, it's fascinating, and they get a lot of good, interstable things, and they tell you a lot about, the younger guys coming up. So, for now, this is us, signing off.
Thanks for listening.